And good evening, everybody.
Welcome to our Sunday Night Live. Thanks for being here.
Wow.
And happy Mother's Day to everybody out there.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Happy Mother's Day, Nancy. Happy Mother's Day, Rachel. And all of our friends and family. Happy Mother's Day, Carol. Karen, we've got so many friends and so many family members out there in the world. Tell us where you guys are.
And while you're doing that, we're going to give a shout out to our amazing mods. And a happy Mother's Day to all of our mods, too. Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Teresa M., and Laura Waldy. Thank you, ladies, for all you do, for making our chat a classy and welcoming place. We could not be doing this without you, so thank you so much.
And I was a dutiful husband today.
Yes. Just got me those very beautiful flowers right there.
They don't look really great, but they're pretty good.
Yeah, the distance makes them look smaller. I was telling them, I'm like, they're beautiful. I love them.
So where are you at celebrating your Mother's Day? And my gosh, what a crazy day for the family today for Nancy Guthrie.
It really is. You know, it goes without saying that today is the first Mother's Day without Nancy Guthrie. And our hearts go out to Savannah and her siblings. This has to be a very difficult day for them.
Yeah.
Chris.
And everything we talk about here, obviously everybody is innocent until proven in a court of law. We have just opinions. It doesn't necessarily mean that it would hold up in a court of law. However, what we do talk about are our opinions as well as our guests. That's their own personal opinion.
And we ask a lot of questions.
We do.
Pose a lot of questions to all of you to get us all thinking together. And that's what we do. We want to educate. We want to learn together. And we want to challenge ourselves to think a little bit deeper if we can.
Yep. Critical thinking skill. This is a no-nonsense zone right here. And boy, we've got some amazing guests tonight. Karen, who do we have?
We have Maureen O'Connell.
Yep.
Are you bringing them in?
I'm going to bring her in right here.
Welcome
there
back,
she
Maureen.
Is.
Happy Mother's Day, Karen.
Thank you. Same to you, Maureen. We're so happy to have you back.
Thank you.
We also have John Lamb.
Mr. Johnny
Mr. John
Boy.
Lamb, author and retired homicide detective. And funny
Happy
guy.
Mother's Day to everybody.
Welcome, John. And of course,
I'm looking forward to what we cover in this show tonight, Chris and Karen.
And we've got one more.
we have Bob Gilliam,
And he's out of the river.
former
And
undersheriff.
there he is.
He's back from gone fishing. Welcome back, Bob.
But he's still wearing his waders.
Yeah, he's still wearing his waders.
I missed that, Maureen. What?
You're still wearing your waders.
Yes, I am. That's right. That's right. Well, happy Mother's Day, ladies. And thanks for having me back, guys. I'm looking forward to this next couple hours.
Awesome. We are so grateful to each and every one of you carving out of your day to be here with us. Let's see here. Karen, you have been doing a little work.
Yes.
You,
We've been talking to our sources. For those who might not know, I am a journalist. I've been a journalist for 35 years plus-ish. We'll go ish. I started my career at the LA Times, at the LA Times boot camp. And it's been a long, interesting, incredible experience. And I've been an investigative reporter for most of that time. And I also spent about 5 years as a public information officer, PIO. You guys often hear us refer to the PIO. What does the PIO mean? It's a public information officer. I did that. And as a civilian, I always make the distinction. I was a civilian, not a sworn officer who did that job. I worked for a police chief for 5 years. And, I really enjoyed that work.
she's
as well.
pretty humble. She's interviewed some pretty famous people. Jonas Salk.
I did over my journalism career. Jonas Salk,
Sally Ride,
the first U.S. female astronaut in space. Mikhail Baryshnikov. Everybody knows who he is.
I had a
Variety of
senator in
other
New York
people.
for that one. And he's small, isn't he? Short guy.
Yeah, Baryshnikov is like he's like a petite guy. He's like 5'4", thin. On stage, like in the 80s, you saw him dancing, and he seemed larger than life.
Have you met Baryshnikov, Maureen, as well?
No, but I'm surprised he's that small, but I guess it makes sense when you're flying through the air. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to hold Bob up, that would be quite the adventure. Hold the field as he does his pirouette.
And I spin him like a basketball.
And a lot of crime reporting. That was the nuts and bolts. You know what? I had to go into like arts writing and writing about dance because the crime got so heavy and, just a lot. I always have to take a break from murder. Mental break. I have to do other things and come back and
she covered the Hale Bop, all the suicides in Rancho Santa Fe.
Marshall White was the cult leader, and it was, I believe, 36 cult followers. They all drank the same Kool-Aid in Rancho Santa Fe, California, in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah,
boy, that was a nutty show. That was crazy.
And the crazy thing about that one
sad.
is I was in the ME's office at the time on an autopsy, and all the tables were busy. And Doc Blackburn, who was the ME down there at the time, walks in and he goes, how much longer you got? And he was talking to the ME that I was working with. And he goes, oh, we'll be done in about 10 minutes. He says, good. He said, we've got a lot of people coming in with pajamas. And we were like, what? And
well, I should probably explain. So just very briefly, this cult leader, he had about 36 adults follow him, and they all wore the same like purple pajamas. They had on a certain type of running shoe, and they all took Kool-Aid and basically laid down in beds in this mansion that they were renting in Rancho Santa Fe, one of the most luxury, high-end, expensive neighborhoods in all of San Diego County, Southern California. And then I believe it was somebody who left the cult, reported it, and then in fact, I was working the night it came out on the scanner, and the sheriff's department in San Diego County got the call. And can you imagine those first two deputies going into that house?
It's crazy.
So, yeah, tragic.
And John, you remember Rick Scully from SL?
I remember Rick. Rick was actually Dan Aaron's partner for years.
Yeah, he pulled that caper.
Cold cases.
Yeah, he pulled that caper.
Here's a trivia question for you. Well, where was their last meal?
Oh, it was the
Hooters?
Marie Callender's. Yeah, Hooters. Yeah, the Playgirl.
Did you say Marie?
It was at Marie Callender's. They all had the same breakfast at Marie Callender's restaurant in Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Dang.
In tennis shoes and the purple pajamas.
And it was vodka and barbiturates, and then they put plastic bags over their heads.
Unbelievable.
With rolls
what
of
a
quarters
sight.
for rolls of quarters for the video games on the spaceship.
Yeah.
The spaceship was supposed to come by and pick them all up and take them to the other
The
other
Hale
side of
Bob
the
comet,
planet.
yeah.
Yeah,
The Hale
somewhere out there.
They're still
I
waiting.
remember that very well, that crazy case.
So, that foundation for our new folks that follow us here, just so, everybody understands, Karen's background. So then we'll go ladies first on Mother's Day. Maureen, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and your podcast and everything. And it's great to have you here tonight.
Thank you. I'm a 25-year veteran of the FBI, now retired. I have my own business, and I'm also co-host of the podcast Best Case, Worst Case with Jim Clemente, an FBI profiler.
And we were just on that episode with Gary and I, and we did an episode. Get over there and listen to that. That's it was really fun.
Jim really loved that episode, by the way. He texted me a couple times to say how much he enjoyed that.
It was a great time. Great time. And in the upper left-hand corner is our dear friend, John Lamb, Sergeant extraordinaire, author of over 10 books. Johnny, give him a little insight.
Real briefly, over 3 decades of law enforcement work, and basically covered everything except for riding a motorcycle or being a canine. I was a detective and a detective sergeant, hostage negotiator, and then I ran the negotiation team with my lead negotiator, Chris, and had a pretty remarkable career. And when I left that, I began writing. And I was also married, fortunate to be married to a fingerprint expert and crime analyst, and who was also an editor extraordinaire for my manuscript. So I know I've said that the book will be out in May, the new one, Bring Out Your Dead. I'm waiting on a few glitches with the publisher, but I will let everybody know when it comes out. And it's a delight to be here. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, it's a blessing with Joycer in your life. And I saw your picture that you put up today, and God bless you, brother. Seriously.
You know what? I miss her, but she's in a better place, far better place.
Yeah. I knew John. I've known John since 1982, so that's a couple of weekends.
Yeah.
And also this guy over here, Bobby, if you'll notice, he doesn't really say much, but when he does, it's like E.F. Hutton. And then Bob, tell him a little bit about your career. And
the E.F. Hutton thing is a Rodney Dangerfield joke we'll have to tell off backstage sometime. But thanks for having me back, guys. My name's Bob Gilliam. I was a cop for 36 years. For some of those years, I worked with both Chris and John at the Oceanside Police Department. Great place to work back in the early 80s when the debris truly met the sea. And that's when Oceanside was rocking and rolling. And it was a great place to be a young policeman and learn how to do street police work. After that, I moved around a little bit. Went over next door to Carlsbad. Was a detective there for many years. Went to Jackson, Wyoming. Spent 10 years there. The first time, then went off to Denver. I was a Denver police officer for 11 years. Awesome place to work. Loved every minute of my time in Denver at the Denver Police Department. Great place. All the bells and whistles, all the activity you'd ever want. And learned a lot there too from some veteran cops, even though I went in there with 20 years experience. Let's see, later on in my career, I promoted a little bit and ended up commanding two separate detective units in about a 10-year period of time.
So for the audience, as you can see, we have a tremendous panel as well as a tremendous amount of information. So, or experience and information. Hopefully we can provide, some no nonsense, common sense, critical thinking. We may be right, we may be wrong, but one thing we will tell you right up front from the get-go, if you're brand new with us, we only ask one thing, and that you subscribe to the channel, that you hit the thumbs up, whatever, and the button, and then you share this out with your friends and neighbors. I mean, it could make the difference for a victim and or a family. You never know if somebody listens to something on a podcast and they go, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should do something. And that's one of our goals here in the interview room. I mean, we got a text message less than an hour ago from Maya Miletti's family thanking us, for helping them with that suspect who is now in custody and about ready to go to trial. And we've become very good friends with Richard and Mary Chris across the board. And that's why we do this. That's why we do this. So, but tonight, your sources, you've been talking to a bunch of people, Karen. Where do you think we should start? What kind of information do you got?
Well, let's have you do a little explaining about what our overall topic is, and then I'll fill in some of the details.
Okay,
Does that
sounds
sound
good.
good?
Fair enough.
Okay.
So if you'll notice on the thumbnail, we put 3 hours on the thumbnail. Okay. What we know for sure is 2 of those hours were absorbed by the search and rescue team when they went on scene in the Nancy Guthrie case. Okay. But where the 3rd hour, which is going to actually be the 1st hour, that's been kind of a mystery meat. And so tonight we want to confirm that the 1st hour was absorbed completely by Annie and Tomasso, Nancy's daughter and son-in-law. And what I mean by that is this. There's always been a question of whether or not what the time frame was when they actually went on scene, when the call came in, from the girlfriends, etc. Well, early on, the sheriff said in the press conferences, and we're going to show you that tonight, that the family went on scene at the house at 11 a.m. And that's always been kind of a mystery meat. Would you guys agree with that? I mean, it's kind of like, well, is he off? Is he guessing? Because Nanos does a lot of guessing as well. And, and we all understand early on, you have to run with what's presented to you. But, we've now heard, directly from various people within inside the department. And remember, early on, Karen was able to discover where the car was, and through
the family's car.
Right. And we've always questioned that as, kind of a, just a question mark. Why in the world would this car be impounded from the get-go? Well, what we know now definitively is the family went on scene at 11 a.m. Okay? And they called 911 at 11:56.
Actually, 12:03.
Oh, 12:03. That's right. 12:03. Okay. So that is almost 63 minutes. We're going to talk about those 63 minutes tonight. And what does that mean? And I'm going to bounce this off of this professional group here. What can you do in 63 minutes? Or let's just cut it back down to 56 minutes. Okay. But before we even do that, I just want to pause for 15 seconds. All right. And now if I were to pause for 60 seconds, we're going to multiply that 56 times. Okay, you guys get the message in the chat and in the audience. You understand. That is a long time. A really long time. Now, where I learned that was being in murder trials, and district attorneys standing up and saying, let's just pause for 3 minutes, because that's how long the murder took. And the courtroom would go silent, just like we did a second ago. And the jury would go, what the heck just happened? Okay. Now, if we start thinking about that principle, okay, for 56 minutes, Tomasso and Annie, who we're not saying are guilty of anything for the record.
And in fact, the sheriff has cleared the family.
Allegedly. Right. The sheriff has, but we've not heard from the FBI. So until the FBI says we agree with the sheriff, then we're also going to show you a video where the sheriff says everybody's on the table.
Right. But
So-
either way, we're asking questions.
We're only asking questions tonight. Okay. So in that 56 minutes, we now know that certain narratives are being driven in that 56 minutes. Okay. And so I want to ask the panel, what have we individually heard? And then we're going to bounce that off of what the investigators probably heard. And we're hearing today, I know there's been some reporting about, the narrative that was being driven. We've heard from, well, let's first listen to Savannah.
She called me and I said, "Is everything okay?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "No." She said, "Mom's missing." And I said, "What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?" She said, "She's gone." And she was in a panic. I was in a panic. I'm like, "Call 911.
Yeah.
She's like, "I did. We've called them. They're here." And we thought that she must have had like some kind of medical episode in the night, and that somehow, the paramedics had come because the back doors were propped open, and that didn't make any sense. We thought maybe they came and there was a stretcher and they took her out the back. But her phone was there and her purse was there and all her things. And it just didn't make any sense. So, Annie and Tommy had already called all the hospitals, but then I'm like, I'm going to call the hospital. So then I started calling the hospitals, and the police were there and talking to her at the same time, and it was just chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty sincere statement. Would you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Right? I mean, I think very sincerely, she's listening to her sister on the phone tell her, look, this is what's going on. Okay. Now, I don't know the time frame of when that actual phone call occurred, but I have to assume it's within the 3-hour block of the cop. Well, we know the cops were there, so it's got to be in the 2-hour block. Okay, so I'm going to break this into two buckets again. The 2 hours of the search and rescue, which Bob, you have talked about extensively, and the incident command. Let's talk about when the 911 call comes in, okay, and that particular time frame, and then Karen, what else are you thinking?
Well, our sources have shared with us that the family told the responding deputies that they arrived at the house, they looked around the house, they couldn't find Nancy. They looked around the immediate neighborhood, which doesn't mean they searched the neighborhood. The inference was like exterior of the house. They didn't find her, and that was done before, and then they called 911.
Okay, so if that is a narrative that was shared with the police, and we've got this firsthand from investigators, okay, what does that mean for 56 minutes? Does it take 56 minutes to do that, is my question.
And then the obvious question is, was the blood seen on the stoop?
That's the obvious
Was it
question.
or wasn't it?
That's the obvious. Thoughts?
I don't think it's that long. If it were me doing it with Tomasso, yes, that's a very long time. Or if it were just one person who was really effective and fast and systematic, I don't. I just think that Annie walks so slowly. We saw her coming down the driveway. Every time we see her, she just moves very slowly. And if you're going through an entire house and walking around the casita in the back and walking to, outside those little gates in the back to look, and then you're walking very slowly down the driveway to look down the street and maybe go to one neighbor's house, I could see that taking her 56 minutes. But with both of them there and Tomasso being young and fit and whatever, that would almost cut that time in half for me. So at that point, it starts to look like it's an excessive amount of time for all that to happen before they call the police. And to your question, I would say, yes, the blood was on the front stoop.
So you think they definitely saw that?
Well, if they didn't use the front door often and they didn't even go out the front door and they went out the garage door, the back doors were propped open, so they would probably assume that's how she got out no matter what happened. You know, walk out there, open the garage. They probably opened the garage when they pulled in. Is it an excessive amount of time? I would say yes, before I would call the police, because even if it is a walk away, the cops can help you find her, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
what- yeah.
which leads us to an observation. The garage. Okay. There's a couple of things I want to point out here in the garage. Number one, if you look at those Duraflames in the back there, there's a whole case of those Duraflames.
Yeah, those logs, yeah.
Now, we know for a fact that an 84-year-old woman is not going to move that case around. So it would be logical that somebody strong enough would be able to move that box of Duraflame around. Okay. Now it looks like it's in place, that particular box, but if you'll look in this next picture here, you'll see that those Duraflames are stacked up in that garage. But you know, the most important piece I see here, look at the foundation and the door going into the garage, into the house. That is at least an 8-inch foundation. So that means there's a step there.
Do you guys see that?
I'm going to back it
Yeah, I
up.
see it.
See?
Mm-hmm.
If you can see it to the back wall there, you can see the foundation clearly behind the logs. If you're looking at the picture, it's to the left where the little white looks like some type of
Tray
stoop
table or something, yeah.
Yeah, some tray table or something. But look at the thickness of that foundation. And then you can clearly see it here now. All right. The reason I think this is, for me, when I saw this, I was like, well, wait a minute. Mom was dropped off in, whatever the time, 9:58. And then 2 minutes later, she's
9:48.
9:48. Thank you. 2 minutes later, she's in this house and the garage door is coming down. But she has to navigate that step. And if we're thinking, okay, well, she's just dropped off and she walks into the house, what if she would have fallen? If this 80, if she's 84 years old, and she's dropped off, well, I'm getting the impression it's kind of like this.
I thought Nano said at the beginning that the family got her in the house and got her settled. Did
Well,
I
he
not
did.
hear that?
Yes.
No, you're right.
he
Was
did.
the reporter asked him, did family go in the house with him? And his
His
answer,
response was the family's. Yeah, sorry, Karen. His response was the family saw her into the house, actually, I think he said Tomas. Well, no, he said the family saw her into the house. If I remember that right.
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 So now she would have dropped off and going through the garage. If she's got her cane, she's got to do a step and then push that door in, negotiating her cane to get in.
Locked, by the way, or open. Typically, people leave their garage doors open. I mean,
I mean unlocked. Let's
Unlocked.
get specific.
That's
I don't like open because it means too many things. It's either locked or unlocked.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Good point. So unlocked. I mean, I don't. I lock my garage door when I'm home, but typically during the day I leave it open.
Unlocked.
Unlocked.
It's a bad habit. I know. Trust me. I've been trying to
Unlocked.
break it myself.
Okay.
We just need to be specific so people can visualize what we're talking about.
Okay. What do you guys think of now that we see she's not only has to negotiate a somewhat of a slope, a moderate slope, but now there's an internal step that she has to step up onto.
Okay,
Go
hang
ahead.
on. I just had this thought. So let's assume her car is parked in that spot,
Yep.
typically. If she's dropped off, now it's a much smaller area to get out of the car, her daughter's car, and to pass her car and get in using a cane.
Which you brought up the next point we're going to point out. Look at the positioning of the car. Okay. It's almost in the way of getting clearly to that door.
Correct.
So I find the positioning of the car really interesting for somebody who is having a difficult time because of age, getting around.
But this
Now,
is after the car was returned by law enforcement, correct?
No, this is the FBI evidence response team in this picture.
This would have been in the first couple of days of
So
the
it was
investigation.
before they
correct?
So it was
removed
before
it?
it was
I believe it
towed.
was
haven't even
before
took-
they towed it.
They haven't even towed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Your guys, Maureen.
so
Aren't you-
Nancy,
They're not dressed like
Nancy-
PRT people.
They've got the black trucks out in front.
let's
Uh,
That'd have
assume
been
Nancy
Tina?
parked the car there. And go back to that picture with the car. She's parked it in a way. She's got plenty of room. She's got a couple feet over to the right side, but she parked it fairly close to the door and in direct line with the door. And so I would think that she does that routinely. And she gets out, she uses her cane. She might even, have the car parked that close in the event that she falls, and she can fall up against the car, and then she makes that step up into the door. I'm not too bothered with that step.
either.
I mean, I see your point, Chris. It's definitely there, and she has to navigate it. But considering where the car is right there, I would say that she parked it there and used it as I mentioned.
And she may
Okay.
use the cane in her left hand, Chris, and
Mhm.
then use her right hand to touch along the car, which is something I was saying when they first removed the car. Like, why would they? Well, they obviously didn't know whether or not it was in play in some way, shape, or form, but also there could have been some smudging or some movement or something along the side of that vehicle, because it's my understanding that the cars there get very dusty very quickly. And so she may use it as a balancing mechanism for her right side.
Perfect. I love it. And which is going to tie into the narrative. Because you guys are agreeing that there has to be some type of potential, balance if there's an obstacle. And in this particular situation, we have an obstacle. So the car in rational thought process comes into, well, that could be used for balance. And
Well, Chris?
as well as the cane. Go ahead, Johnny.
I have a question. The expression that Sheriff Nanos used, which was saw her into the house, does that mean that they accompanied her into the house? Or does
Yes.
that mean that they stood by and watched her go in the house?
Mhm.
Great
And if it was
question.
accompanying her into the house, the 2-minute sequence seems to me to be extremely abbreviated for the family to accompany her into the house, make sure she's settled, and then leave.
Yeah.
Unless he walked out the front door, but that doesn't make sense either because he parked outside by the garage.
Supposedly, the garage door is open for a period of 2 minutes.
Right.
But
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
what Sheriff Nano says is sees them into the house. We don't know precisely what that means. Whether it was literally saying they watched her go in the house, or they accompanied her into the house.
My sister
Yeah.
has mobility issues too, and we talked about this over and over. And she's much younger than Nancy. And she said, Maureen, if you drop me off outside that garage, I could not make it up to that door and in that door in 2 minutes. There's no way.
And I've got to say from personal experience, from my wife, who the final 5 years of her life had to use either a walker or a cane because of the Parkinson's disease. When I hear 2 minutes for her to get into the house, when we know that Nancy was not really super ambulatory, that has always impressed me as a very, very narrow time element for somebody to get in the house, particularly since there's always the issue of moving from being in a sitting position to standing up. It's not like you jump out of the car and walk right in. So I think that regarding Sheriff Nanos's observation or his statement regarding dropping her off, it basically semantically means nothing. All it says is, all we can derive from it is that they were there.
And Chris, didn't you say when you going back to your point about the 15 seconds and how long that takes? Early on, I timed the garage. I think I was on your show when right before I did that, but wasn't it 18 seconds for the door to go up? So it will trigger. So we can almost carve off 18 seconds from that 2 minutes.
Right. And that, which is going to lead us into the next piece of this.
Hang on a second, Chris. I want to weigh. Yeah, I want to weigh in on that. So if I'm Tomasso and I'm bringing my 84-year-old mother-in-law home that has mobility issues, I'm going to walk her inside, and I'm not just going to open the door and then leave. I'm going to walk in, make sure that there are lights on. She most likely, in fact, I think we've heard this, that she has a walker inside the house that she uses to get around. And I think at 10 o'clock at night, it's obviously dark out. I'm going to, take a little gander through the house, at least the main area of the house, just to make sure everything is copacetic in there. And then, Mom, do you need anything? Okay, I'm going to take off. Love you. See you tomorrow. That's what I think a normal man would do when he's dropping his mother-in-law off like that. So
maybe turn on the light in the washroom or something,
exactly. Yeah.
Ask if she needed anything before he left. You don't just throw the door open and say, "See ya.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?"
Yeah.
And and we don't know that Tomasso didn't do that either. He may have done that. But to your point, Chris, it seems like a 2-minute window would be not even close to enough time to do that, all of those things. And when Maureen says that, the 18-second rule on the door going up and down, because I'm not pulling out of the driveway until I know that garage door is down and stays down. We've all had our garage door go down and then something trigger it and it goes back up, right? So I don't know. That's just what I'm doing. And I think most men would do that. Hopefully Tomasso did that.
I was just corrected in the chat by one of the commenters who said that she timed it also at 11 seconds. So I don't remember which one it is, but I'll go with her 11 seconds.
Well, Bob, to your point, if all that was done and we're all saying logically it would take more than 2 minutes, something's not adding up. Either the data point isn't adding up of what we're being told, or it took longer, or it didn't happen.
Out the back door.
A, B, or C.
or he went out the back door, Karen.
If he went out the back door, then he walks back around to get to the car in the garage, parked in the garage driveway. Is that what you're saying?
Because when he pulled up afterwards, if you recall, when we saw him a month after the this abduction or whatever it was took place, Tomasso pulled up the straight driveway where his driver's side door was near the garage. The garage door was here, his car was here, and he pulled it almost up against the casita. So people tend to replicate activity. It seems like that's where he parks when he pulls in there. I'm not saying that's where he parked when he dropped Nancy off, because that wouldn't make any sense for her to be
longer.
Yeah, he would have to nose in there. You're right. It looks like, in thinking about it, Karen, he'd have to nose in there, so his car would be right out there. And I don't know the distance from those back doors to that little area right there.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, if we're to believe that 2-minute, I guess what I'm saying is, my question is that 2 minutes accurate? And based on what we're talking about of what a logical walk Nancy in and get her in the house, we're saying it would take more than 2 minutes. So we are questioning the 2 minutes that we're being told from 9:48 when the garage door goes up to 9:50 when it comes down. Would that be accurate, Chris?
Right. And which was kind of the problem that we've discussed here multiple times about the next morning. I mean, we don't have a data point in any way, shape, or form about that garage door being utilized to when they show up, to go look for mom. That no point at no time have the authorities released information yet about whether or not they even opened the garage door when they got there at 11.
Chris, let me ask you, if this
They
was
had
your
56 minutes to do it, it sounds like.
if this was your case and you were investigating, would you release the Sunday morning data point to the public?
Yeah.
And you would give them that information?
Yeah. I think there's going to be a couple of things I would have done differently, but this is just me.
Hypothetically. Yeah.
Hypothetically, I would have told the public, and John, keep me in line here. We've done these things many times. At this point, we have an 84-year-old woman who's, it appears she's disappeared out of the home. We have blood on the porch. The investigation is ongoing. We don't have any suspects or personal people of interest at this point. However, we will fill you in and give you updates as we go along. That's it. And when they say, well, how did she say? Well, she was discovered by her family as being missing. And right now we're investigating that, and we'll keep you informed as we start to make progress. Next question. And that's how, right? I mean, that's what I would want you to do as the PIO. I don't want you to go out there and, and do this.
Disbelief.
I've said this before.
How cold did it get?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I wouldn't have given a timeline that strict. I would have been very vague on the timeline. I would have used the word approximately like 20 million times in describing. You've got to give some type of timeline. I'm just saying I would not have given the precise timeline or supposed precise timeline that Nanos gave, just for this reason, because it almost always changes. And he did that right from jump. And I would not have done that as a PIO or as the detective or as the supervisor of that unit.
Absolutely.
Add something else to that. Now, was it Sheriff Nanos who revealed the data points regarding the opening and shutting of the garage the previous night?
Yes.
My question would be is that, we're drawing, to me, an unwarranted conclusion that anybody went in through the garage. We know the garage operated. That's all we know. We don't know if anybody went in or went out. That information in particular, delivered in the manner the sheriff did, which would allow you to infer that that's how she got in the house. I don't know if the sheriff is clever enough to have done that was deliberate or accidental, but that's information that the garage opening and shutting that night, I'd have kept that just off the table, just speaking for myself.
Well, and
along with the doors being opened in the back.
Yes.
Yeah, great points. Great points. And one of the things that we're going to show tonight is just that, that vagueness that the sheriff gave. And one of the most glaring pieces of the puzzle was when he was asked, well, is there blood anywhere? He goes, I'm not confirming if there's blood inside or outside.
Well, that's a big yes.
Well, but this is how he operates. I guess where I'm going here. This is his MO. And as a result of that, if this is his MO, why is he saying the family's cleared?
Going back to the 2 minutes, and we talked about staging, and this is just a question. This is not an accusatory statement, but somebody staging a crime scene like that might stand at the outside buttons of the garage door and tap their toe for 2 minutes and then push the button and have it close. Okay. So, did that happen in this case? I don't know, but I think it's a relevant question under the circumstances.
So here's my thought to that. And I'm not disagreeing with you that could be a possibility. However, I'm not in the camp right now that the blood was staged. I am in the camp that there are 2 buckets, and that the second piece of that problem, meaning I believe that Nancy was taken, forcefully out of that house at this point. The more I've thought about this, the more I've studied it personally, and this is just my 2 cents. I think there is a staging element to this, but that's bucket number 2. And this is all the the inconsistencies post 11 a.m., not before 11 a.m. I think it's pretty clear right now. There's something going on with the video, with the disconnect, with all the other stuff going on, with the blood on the porch. It's pretty clear that something happened the night before. It's also clear to me that she probably knew who the suspect was, because I've studied all of the videos in that area around that time. And guess what? All the videos that are available, not one other suspect is wearing a mask. Not one. Even the guy walking backwards with the similar type of backpack with the hat down, all that stuff, neighbors, around the corner. So that means this guy is unique. This guy sticks out even further now. And to me, that meant almost like covering the victim's face and stabbing him.
What do you mean?
I'm
What are
not
you
saying
referring
that's what
to?
happened. I'm
But what are you
saying there's a
referring to?
there's a personality, or there is a familiarity with the victim, with Miss Guthrie. And the whole reason for the costume is because the suspect is known to her and she's known to him.
It's a shock and awe situation. Remember when that video footage first came out? We all gasped, thinking what poor Nancy went through when she saw this thing. But
Yeah.
to your point, Chris, about the mask, he also had on 2 pair of gloves. Now, I wore 2 pair of gloves a lot, working a crime scene, but I did that regularly. I trained that way, and I did it because your hands sweat when you're working a crime scene. But that night, it was the cold. I think the cold temp was 43 degrees. You're not sweating. I'm wondering if he had really thin fingers, or, because sometimes with latex gloves or with those nitrile gloves, you can see perfectly the what the hand looks like. And if he's got hands that are dissimilar to other people in some way, shape, or form, you might be able to see that through those nitrile gloves. And I also said from the beginning, I thought he had 2 pair of pants on, or
Yeah.
some
You
kind of
Yeah.
and something under his, even in the front. Almost, it was, to me, it was a costume. And I've learned from Dr. Bricado so many times that when there's all these extra things, it's an issue. And I think that's what you're talking about here, is there's just a lot of extra.
Yeah, no, and that's what I've been thinking as well. I mean, and it's really interesting that when we go back and we really start analyzing this even further, it's like, why is this guy doing all of this? What is going on here? And the more I studied, as we all know, geographical profiling, right? I mean, what's in that neighborhood? what's going on months before. And there's no indication that anybody else doing Holmbergs, or hot prowls, that they're wearing a disguise. No, I mean, we've got the Amazon people, with the fake, coming in with the package. We've got the guys, trying to throw the
Two
the
backpacks.
backpacks over the
He's
hood
wearing
there.
jeans, a jacket, and I think a baseball cap.
But everybody can see the guy's face, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so to your point, Maureen, that is a great point. Why all of this extra? John, you're thinking, I can tell.
I was just going to say, when you pointed out, now he's wearing a balaclava, and we've all dealt with hot prowl burglars, which, just to reference for maybe your new viewers, that was the expression we used. It's also cat burglars have been used. These were nighttime entries into occupied residences. I've never seen one. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I've never seen one wearing a mask that would cover the ears, because one of the things that sort of burglar requires is an ability to hear potential people in the house. He operates on stealth. So I've heard people say, oh, it's just a burglary that went wrong. If it is, it was a first-time burglar, because an experienced hot prowl burglar would never dress up that way. The other thing they need to do is be able to run fast if they're caught. Does this guy look like he could run fast? I mean, maybe he could briefly and then have a heart attack. But so I would reject the notion that it's a burglary gone wrong by a guy who was doing a hot prowl.
And just to add to that, to John's point, with the needing the ability to hear, that device that's in his pocket is a two-way radio. It's not a scanner. How's he going to listen to a scanner? There's no way. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's a radio. And anyway, that just came into my head when he was talking about hearing, and I agree with that completely.
Because how long does it take a police officer to listen to the radio and understand what they're saying?
It takes a while.
It takes a long time, and it's all numbers. The
code.
California vehicle codes and everything else.
And it's
assuming
loud.
he had the right frequency, assuming he, they didn't, assuming the call came over the radio. Nowadays, a majority of the calls come over the MDT and not on the radio, unless it's a in progress call in most agencies. So, there's a huge assumption there. And those that are in the camp that was a police scanner, I just totally disagree with that.
And what channel were they on? Who was he supposed to listen to? Which channel? That's what you said earlier.
Pima
about.
County Sheriff, they probably have a net with 25, 35, maybe even 50 radio frequencies throughout the entire organization, and he's going to choose the right one to listen to. There's just no way. That's too far out there for me.
Maureen, to your point about the double gloving, my thought when I saw it, heard it, was, well, he maybe was planning on doing something inside the house where he needed to get the first pair off, something potentially, just saying it, potentially bloody as an example, and he has to get that first pair off, and then he's got his second pair on, so he's not leaving prints on the way out, grabbing the door handle, whatnot.
And I would agree with that, but the pair underneath was one of those. It was rather fluffy. In other words, it looked like those neoprene gloves with the little dots on the bottom that you get for a 2-pack at Costco. So his DNA would have been on those. That's not the same thing. I could see definitely wearing 2 pair of nitrile gloves, but you'd be able to see the fingers much more. When I first saw the images, I was live on Megyn Kelly's show, and I had to look at a very small little thumbnail on my little screen, and it looked like leather gloves, like fur-lined leather gloves is what they look like from far away at first. But then it was very clear to me once I got a better look at them, that they were those nitrile gloves with like a fluffier glove under it. Now, a lot of people have said, and they're saying it in the comments right now, that it was a female. Females do have very thin fingers compared to most men. If it was a female, which that's one thing my sister says, I'm telling you, Maureen, I think that could be a female. I don't know about that. And I thought the torso was a little too long. And she said, well, if they're wearing 2 pair of pants or she's got sweatpants on under it, under those jeans, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I don't know. None of us do, I guess, but
don't take that thought off your plate yet, because I'm going to show you something that was one of the other things that has come up in this that I thought was really interesting. I'll show it here in a little bit. Okay, so we're at the. I just want to run for the audience real fast. Just a quick, timeline again. The night of the disappearance, 9:48. We've talked about that. 1:47, the doorbell camera. 2:12, the security software detects movement. No video saved due to lack of the subscription at the time. 1:28, her pacemaker monitor app disconnects from her phone. A key indicator. What's up? Oh, 2:28. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. And it disconnects from her phone, a key indicator of when she may have been taken. We don't really know that. And now we have the difference in the time frame. All right. This is a perfect time. Guess what? We're 56 minutes into the show right now. Look how much we have talked about and how much we have done in 56 minutes.
Yeah, you can do a lot.
All right.
It's a long time.
And I mean, we could probably have all run out to our garages, pressed our buttons, run back in, gone to make a sandwich. We probably could have gone bowling. Okay. That's a joke. Okay. But that said, okay, there is a lot that can be done in 56 minutes. So I want to know what was done in that 56 minutes. And I think this is why the sheriff has been so vague, because they wanted to know, the initial investigators, what was going on for 56 minutes. We know what Savannah said. We know that the police were there when the phone call was made to her by her family, because she says, it was chaos. The police were there. They had already called 911. They'd already checked the hospitals, etc. But now this is where it's really important to pay attention to what the sheriff says. And so I'm going to walk everybody right back to the very first night and listen carefully to the audience, what he says and how he says it.
Missing overnight, I take it? She was.
Well, she was last seen at about 9:30, 9:45 last night.
9:30, 9:45. Do you know how cold it got last night? Is that a concern?
You guys are going to know
Okay.
that better.
Is that a concern, though?
Well, it's cool right now. 84 years old. I'm cold.
So when she was last seen, a family had dropped her off at home, is that correct?
She was last seen by family at 9:45, at 9:30, 9:45 is what we're.
And did they see her in the home?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, he's talking about a walk away. And the reporter's asking him. So there's two parts of this interview with the journalist. Now remember, I'm not going to give the sheriff a lot of grace here, because this is fresh. This is that day, that night, where the information's being provided directly from the reporting parties and the witnesses who called 911. Okay. And so those body cameras are going to be available one day. They're not right now. So we have to kind of, read between the lines here of what he's saying. And the first question to the from the journalist is, well, if she's a walk away, it's cold. Okay, it's 34 degrees. Okay, so my first thought process was, and it was confirmed, okay, through our communication. And Karen, what were your people saying?
So, according to what we were told, the family told the deputies that first arrived.
Now clarify who the family is.
The family is Nancy Guthrie's daughter and the son-in-law, not Savannah.
Not Savannah, not Cameron, because
No.
they're in different states.
Right. That the family said that they thought Nancy maybe called an Uber and went to the hospital. Much different than calling 911 potentially and going to the hospital.
Now, a minutia detail on that is her phone is at the house.
Mm-hmm.
To your point earlier, Maureen, you call an Uber for your family.
But why would Nancy
Well, I get a
call
notice
an Uber?
on my phone.
Okay.
I get a notice on my phone.
Why would Nancy call an Uber and not her family?
It's a great question, Bob. Why would Nancy call an Uber instead of 911?
Well, yeah, for medical.
Or 911, or the family that is 4 miles away.
That is a good question. And by the way, I mean, Chris and I were kind of talking about this. If you called an Uber, the Uber driver doesn't get out of the car and prop open doors with clay pots to get you in or out. I don't even think when it's a senior citizen, like my 86-year-old mom, who every once in a while does call an Uber, they don't help her in and out of the car. She has to use.
But you could put in the notes. You could put it in the notes that she's not ambulatory. She needs help. If you could open the back passenger door, whatever. I think you can do that.
Yeah, that is an option. Yes.
But they're not really leaving their car. The Uber driver is not assisting somebody who isn't ambulatory into their vehicle and certainly out as well.
Yeah, it's not like calling 911 or a family member that lives 4 miles away.
Or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or a
The
friend.
idea, yeah. The
Or a
idea
neighbor.
that you call Uber in the middle of the night for an emergency situation, the kindest thing I can say is it's ludicrous.
And leave your purse and your phone
So who's paying for the Uber?
and your watch behind.
It
You're going to
doesn't
the
make sense.
hospital, but you don't have your Medicare card?
No.
Or your phone to pay for the Uber drive.
Well, you could theoretically call an Uber and leave your phone at home. You theoretically could do that, and it would charge you as it normally does. But no one who is conscious is going to the ER without their ID or
Right.
without their insurance card or your hearing aids,
Or
as
your
someone in the
shoe-
comments just said.
Or shoes. Where did the shoes come up? I don't know where the shoes came up. I can't remember.
Savannah said that. Yeah, Savannah said in her Hoda interview that
Yeah.
Nancy's shoes were by her bed, so
And
she
to that-
hadn't taken her shoes.
To that point, panel, in my mind, there's only two ways that Savannah would know that. Number one, she was told by the investigators, or number two, there's video.
And I
What do
don't,
you guys think?
Or she was told by her sibling.
Yeah.
If the sibling, if their sister had been in the house, which I guess we could speculate that during the 56 minutes they're conducting their diligent search for the mother, potentially they did notice that her shoes or her slippers were still there. But you're right, there's only a very narrow set of people who could have let her know that.
okay.
I keep
so
mine in the same spot. My slippers are always in the same spot.
you buy
Same.
new
I love
slippers every
slippers.
week.
Maureen, do you love slippers as much as I love slippers?
No, I don't even use them in Los Angeles, but I use them here because it's rural and you can't even walk out on the porch because of twigs and everything. So you have to wear slippers.
I have
But the
rabbits.
slippers I have here.
I have rabbits' feet jammies that are connected, that are all hooked up.
You
so
wear
I don't need
onesie?
slippers.
What?
Yeah,
Happy
you
Mother's
were-
Day, ladies.
All right, sorry.
That's quite a visual.
It's hysterical.
All right.
Yeah, that's scary. Here we go.
And who called in the missing report?
The family.
You won't, can you say who?
You know, I don't have that name.
Okay. And
I'm going through some talking points for the family. I want to make sure I cover them. I'm not somebody who does well with the script.
Okay, so now this becomes really, really interesting when we hear a press conference starting off with, I'm going through talking points for the family, and I don't do well with a script.
He doesn't
Now-
do well off the cuff either, but
I get it. Right.
You know, I took my class on PIO at the FBI National Academy from an excellent instructor named James Vance. And if Jim was still there, he's retired now, but if he was still there, I guarantee you he would use this entire case on how not to conduct a PIO operation on a case.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. Sheriff Nanos has not only a very competent PIO, but their whole office and staff seem pretty competent. And the fact that he had to just barrel in there and take it all over. I mean, we've talked about this many, many times on the show. It's infuriating watching him say what he says and conduct himself the way he did. So,
Yeah, and it gets worse, right? So one of the things here, the key developments in the search efforts, and Bob, let's talk about incident command, because here's the timeline in its clarity now. 11 a.m. And by the way, you're going to hear the sheriff say that as well. Okay. At first he said, kind of maybe around there, but then later on, and I clipped it. He says 11 a.m. the family gets there and they search for a little while before, anything. And then they called 911. So we chased that angle down and we confirmed it 1,000%. It's 11 a.m. Okay. And so now we've been told that that's when the girlfriend's called. Well, it's actually before that. It's got to be, because they were on scene within that 4-mile radius to get to the house, like you're talking about, Bob, to look for mom. Okay. Now, could it be 11:01, 11:05, whatever? Yeah. Okay. It could be. All right. Just for the chat. But it is a minimum of potentially 56 to 63 minutes, right, before the 911 call is made. And we just showed, that's a long time. That's a really long time to be looking for your mom and not calling 911 right away, or, presupposing there's, she's abducted, there's a ransom and all this other stuff, right? Which the brother knew right away. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a ransom. It's a kidnap for ransom. Well, is it because of me? Yeah. And poor Savannah was thrown under the bus on that. But these details, these minutia details now, it makes now much more sense, because in the very beginning of this, the feds aren't involved in this thing at all. And I've been able to say that one of the federal task force members is a member of the Pima County Sheriff's Office. He's not an agent from the FBI. That Nanos responded to the criticism from Kash Patel the other day by, well, yeah, they were plugged in, day one. We had an FBI task force member there. Well, he forgot to say, but he was my guy. Okay. He didn't say, anything other than that. So he gave the impression to the public that it was a member of the FBI. No, it was a task force member assigned to the Violent Crime Task Force that the FBI operates. Okay. The gang task force, the one you used to run in LA. And explain a little bit of those dynamics, Maureen, about, how that operates as a whole.
Being on a task force with other agencies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's just wonderful work. You get to work so many different things. You you're just a team. You have to build bridges. You have to get in there, roll up your sleeves, do what needs to be done. You're working outside your basic framework that you had as an FBI agent. Things are oftentimes much more fluid, especially on the Violent Crimes Task Force. That's a very fluid situation that you're thrust into on a daily basis. You just don't know what's going to hit you, what's going to hit your squad, and where you're going to end up. So you learn a lot of really valuable information. You learn how, like, for example, I learned how the sheriff's department worked. I was reporting to a sergeant with the LA County Sheriff's Department, Anthony Rivera, and then a captain, Jim Thornton. And we just, it was just running and gunning, basically, a lot of it. Chasing bad guys, but we were also working within an interesting framework. So we had a federal prosecutor working with us because our main case was a great big case that was involved the murder of a deputy, Jerry Ortiz. So we had a federal prosecutor, and we had at least one meeting a week. At the beginning, it was every day, but then it went to one meeting a week where we would divvy up everything that needed to be done and who was going to do it. And we would talk about, hammer time. How can the feds hammer them more, or can DEA pay for the wire? Can the feds handle this prosecution? Should we get the local DA to handle this portion of it? And it's just this giant chess game. It's just brilliant work, and it's so cool to be part of.
Well, and thank you for that definition for the audience, because this is why it's important for the nuances. When the sheriff stands up and says what he says, he doesn't tell you that there are multiple agencies assigned to these task force and they're funded by the feds. And so,
which can be a force multiplier.
Which is a force multiplier. Right. Exactly. And so he kind of dodged around that. And that's why it's important to pay attention to the simple things here. He locked the feds out for the first 4 days. I know that for a fact now.
Well, and the FBI director said that publicly this past week.
Right. But we double checked that. Okay.
Right.
And it's accurate. Unfortunately, and how do I know that? Because I see some people in the chat asking. Okay. I'm going to show you how I know that. Number one, the very first press conference is the sheriff out on the grass there in the dark, and that answer that he has. The second press conference, he doesn't even have the FBI there. He's got his guy that had been working all night, and he says some really interesting things. One of the things I want you to pay attention to is the fact that we now have learned there's a 56-minute potential gap, if not more. Okay. So he's trying to fill that gap with word salad. And here's what I mean.
My local media knows that. We'll get started. I believe it was around noon yesterday, we got a call to the Guthrie residence that Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, was missing. We expended a lot of resources for a missing person that we typically always do. Our search, as I said yesterday.
Okay, so Bob, to your point earlier, I think we can all say, and we can confirm, that there is a 2-hour gap in search. Well, they get a phone call around noon. He said, we now know what the exact time of call was through the timeline. Okay. The CAD,
12:03.
Right. So he says around noon, we get a call of Miss Guthrie missing. All right. That is a really specific radio response. And it makes sense now when you hear the 911 or the radio traffic from dispatch, if we put it together, They say the same thing. The dispatch is a bolo for Miss Nancy Guthrie, and it gives a height, weight, last seen 10 p.m. the night before, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Standard issue cop work under the umbrella of she's missing, she's a walk away, or it could be a walk away. Okay. Now, that's important because the first response to this, for what the sheriff just said and what we've talked about many times on the show here, is they went in with a certain mindset. But who was giving them that mindset is my question. And we know that it was the reporting party. And who's the reporting party?
The family.
And we also know that there is mixed messaging here. We think there was a medical issue. We think she took an Uber. We think the paramedics left the door open. Next question from for the sheriff. How'd they get in? We're not talking about that. Can we hear the 911 call? We're not releasing that. Can you tell us the data points that you have of how they might gotten in? We're not going to discuss that any further. Listen to how he starts answering the public before the FBI gets into this. Okay.
We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we process that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. This is
okay. The panel. We saw some things that were concerning to us. John, you start.
Well, we don't know. We have no information as to what the condition was inside the house. There's, of course, the blood on the front porch, the doors being open with somebody with more than a belt-sized IQ finally came on scene and said, maybe paramedics didn't leave the doors open. Maybe this was arranged. So it could be that as you got some experienced people on scene, situations that have been dismissed or overlooked were being identified at that point as, hey, we better get homicide guys out here. This doesn't look right. I don't think we're going to know for a long time what other things they might have seen. And here we are over 90 days in, and we still haven't gotten the 911 audio. And I find that extraordinarily puzzling, unless, of course, it contains case-specific information they don't want to give up.
Which it must, don't you think, John?
I absolutely.
It must, because it's worth noting, multiple media organizations and the public,
including
us, have submitted public records requests multiple times, and everybody has been turned down. So they're hanging on to it tightly. And at some point, I would assume media organizations that have teams of lawyers will push back on the Arizona law that requires them to release it in a timely manner. But then again, they can say it's part of the investigation, and then they don't have to release it.
So it goes towards the column, if we keep the column again, okay, that goes into the bucket of, well, that's weird.
That's a big bucket, Chris.
Yeah. Or
Thanks,
more specifically, what is in that 911 call that they do not want to release that, John, to your point, is case specific?
All right.
That's a question.
It gets better.
84-year-old lady who suffers from some physical ailments, has some physical challenges, is in need of medication. Medication that if she doesn't have in 24 hours, it could be fatal. Please.
Recognizing your limitations, but can you elaborate at all on what makes you believe it's a crime scene as opposed to someone who left home and just couldn't find their way back?
Well, I think I told you she is very limited in her mobility, right? We know she didn't just walk out of there. That we know. There are.
Okay, that is a really interesting answer.
Why didn't they know that morning?
Well, this is the next morning.
But I mean, when they got on scene, there seems to be a consensus that Nancy was not ambulatory in any sense of being able to travel any distance. Again, I don't understand why that didn't become one of the primary elements of the investigation very early on.
Or was it?
Again, we don't know, but yeah.
Chris, what makes that so interesting to you? 90 days plus in.
Well, you have within the first 24 hours, you have a narrative. And I've said from the beginning, there are two things that are going to solve this case. Number one is if they lock down everybody quickly within the first 24 hours. And number two, find the car.
The car. It's all going to come back to the car. You'd think.
That would be, yeah, that would be the most, those would be the two easiest pieces of the puzzle.
If it hasn't been torched or driven into a reservoir.
Right. But you have to, what's right. We have two narratives, right? We have two narratives here. The first narrative is mom took an Uber, we think. Actually, we have three. The second one is, no, this is a walk away. Actually, we have four. Well, no, this was a medical incident. No, my mother didn't walk away. There's no way she walked away. So you have four different narratives on how Nancy Guthrie left that house. And then you get the video, which creates number five.
Can I make one comment about that video?
Yeah, go.
He, as you said, he worked so hard, he or she, I guess, worked so hard so that no one would see that face, but worked equally as hard so that everyone would see that gun. I mean, that holster even had black trim around it,
yeah.
or a trim that was a different color than the holster. It was very performative.
Solid. Solid. Which leads us back to the sheriff.
At the scene that indicate there was she did not leave on her own. We know that.
Okay, she did not leave on her own. We know that. This is the next morning. They've been at that scene all night. They've been at the scene all night, and they've heard the narrative, which we just have been talking about here. Okay. Thoughts? Bob, you've been quiet over there.
Well, this is the most bizarre case, and I think we all agree. And I hate to keep harping on Nanos, but he has made it so much more bizarre in the way he's handled not only the media, but just his comments and contradicting himself a number of times. And he just throws these little tidbits out there and then sits back and wants everybody to speculate, apparently, on what that really means, what his comment really means. So Obviously they have some information inside the house that we are not privy to. We've all said this a million times. We know that. They have examined by this time that he's given this press conference, they've examined the blood. They've seen the blood on the front porch. Is there blood inside the house? Is there not blood inside the house? I don't know. We've heard two different things from the sheriff's office or from people close to the investigation. And I still don't know whether there's blood inside the house. Is there something in Nancy's room to cause Nanos to come to this conclusion? Or is it just based on the blood found at the scene and the fact that her phone, her watch, and her slippers were all by the bed? And so they assume that she was abducted from her bed. So, which is a logical conclusion, but we just simply don't know all the evidence. And it's just the whole freaking case is bizarre, and mostly because of Nanos, in my view.
Okay.
Well, Chris, do we have a timetable? Is it possible that he made this statement? By that point, the first ransom demand had been made. Do we know when those ransom demands came in?
3 days.
3 days
Well, we
after.
don't know which ones went into law enforcement. I mean, what I'm saying is there's a potentiality that law enforcement did in fact receive some ransom notes that we don't know about.
That's what I'm getting at is he in his own way, he's not alluding to a ransom demand, but there is some information that they've received that they're sitting on, which has led him to the conclusion that she didn't leave under her own power. Now, I'm agreeing with Bob. I don't think I'd need that. I could look at the scene and pretty much conclude myself without any ransom demands or anything that she didn't leave under her own power. But it occurs to me that he might also have had some additional information that he was basing that conclusion on.
And I can tell you this, our source, the scene's, there's nothing there.
Okay.
Right. But when I first heard this, what you just played, when I first heard that, Chris, I thought they blitzed her while she was in the bed and there was blood under the covers. And then they put her into the tarp. And it was when they were carrying her out that we see that that blood pattern.
Right.
That
No, and I remember, right. And the people that I've talked to said there's nothing there.
Okay.
Which I'm not saying it wasn't there. I'm saying there's a 56-minute gap.
Now,
Okay.
to play the devil's advocate, if
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, if I'm Annie, who, as I said, she just comes off as someone who does things very slowly. If Annie's calling the different hospitals, this is all before law enforcement gets there, because you and I all know, all of us here know that the law enforcement can tell in any time at all. Was an ambulance called? No. Check the hospitals and it's all done very fast.
Yeah, within a minute.
But right. But with Annie calling hospital, what other hospital is here? What one is close? What one is far? How far could she have gone? And then walking around and looking in all the corners and looking by the hot water heater and checking all the bathrooms to make sure she wasn't in there. You know, if it were just Annie there, I could see it taking a lot longer than it would for someone else. But again, Tomasso's there. He's fit. He's agile. I could see him running around. Check this, check that. Boom. Is she here? No. Is she in the garage? No. No one's around here. She's not in her car. Where is she? You know,
not
let's
in the
call
pool,
the
not in the
police.
pool house.
Right.
Does it change any thought for anybody if there's only 3 hospitals?
Well, I think they can make a strong argument for calling urgent care centers that are open 24/7. And that could take a little while.
And there are 3 trauma centers within driving distance of her home.
That's a good point, Karen.
I'm just saying, what are other medical facilities that could take somebody overnight? And you could. Now, is that going to take an hour to call maybe a couple of them? Probably not.
But still,
why
why would
wouldn't you call
Nancy
your
go
sister?
without her phone?
Right.
Her phone's at the house.
Yeah, why would she
And her
go
purse.
without her phone, her purse, her ID? She didn't take any of that.
And
Right,
you
and
can quickly look at the calls on her phone to see any outgoing phone calls.
you could,
That
but
would eliminate
You
that
can
very
unlock it.
quickly.
if one was conscious enough to make a middle of the night phone call for help, then one would assume they would be conscious enough to grab their ID and or wallet on the way out if they were taken out that way.
And with regard to the 56 minutes, why didn't Annie call anybody else like Cameron or Savannah and say, have you heard from mom? Like by the time she calls her sister, they've done all this stuff and it's been an hour.
Exactly.
Great point.
Yeah, great point.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And Chris, what about your point? Did they call back the girlfriends, the mahjong playing girlfriends, the church watching girlfriends to say, hey, is she at somebody else's house? Did you get a call from her overnight? Etc.
Yeah. I mean,
We haven't heard any of that.
We haven't heard any of that. And there's a lot of stuff that the sheriff, I think, is leaking, to Bob's point, accidentally. But it's making more sense now based on some of the information that's being reported to the mainstream media. Okay.
Like what?
Like what?
Well,
Yeah.
Well, the clarity that Sergeant Cross had to make about when he said, what he said on, I don't remember whose show it was, but it was kind of ambiguous about 2 hours or something to that effect. And what he was really saying was, no, that's how long it took for the search and rescue, the totality of that event from the moment they went on scene to, 2 hours later. Okay. But what we have found out is not only was that 2 hours encompassing, but there was also the detectives, the homicide guys were on scene at 1400 at 2:00 in the afternoon. Okay. So why are you calling those guys out so soon? Well, it makes sense now when you see the sheriff in the morning say, we know this was a crime scene. She did not walk out of that house by herself.
Which tells me there was blood on the inside. Because blood on the outside, we all said from the very beginning, when she's on Coumadin and blood thinners, and she's on TV with Savannah with cuts and bandages on her arms, the poor thing, and bleeds very easily. We could all, just your average Joe's going to look at that blood on the porch and think, oh, she was trimming her rose bushes and got a cut, and now she walked off to a neighbor to get a Band-Aid or something. But if there's blood inside the house, that's a different story. Like on the pillow or something.
Right. And so that's why the narrative, whatever that narrative is, okay, that's a long time. That's a long time. And, it's just out of curiosity why somebody would throw luminol in a garage 4 miles away.
At 10 p.m.
I
don't know. I'm asking the questions. I'm not making.
That was a very fast luminol situation. I've never done anything like that quickly, but it was at night, and that's the only thing we do at night in the dark.
Was that the FBI or Pima County though doing that?
That was Pima
It was
County
the sheriff.
Sheriff.
It was not FBI. No,
Yeah.
It was 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they came out with bags.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the flash going off. Actually, Brian Enton saw he's standing outside taking pictures of the pictures, which was pretty interesting in of itself. Okay, so now let's listen carefully, the audience, to what the sheriff is saying again. Now, mind you, the sheriff has not let the FBI in yet because he's operating now. Let's just call it what it is. This could be a homicide. It's gone from a walk away to this is a crime scene. And so I'm going to call out my homicide guys. And we know now we have in, benefit of hindsight. Unfortunately, those were not the,
most experienced group.
Folks of the group.
They together had a couple of years experience, we're told.
Right.
Again, another leadership issue.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, another. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not going to say it. Okay.
That she didn't just walk out, but is there any like additional information that you can give us on what may have alluded to this being a crime scene?
You know, I wish I could. I really do. I know that everybody wants to know certain things, but I can't do that it would be inappropriate at this time.
Now, why is this important? In my mind, he's being asked, well, she just didn't walk out. Why are you going to this conclusion to the sheriff? And what he doesn't want to say is, well, that's what the family has said, that she's walked away. That's the narrative they're operating
Well,
under.
he also didn't want to say there's blood on the front porch.
Well, we'll listen to that
And
too.
that's highly suspicious.
Right. And so he's constantly dodging, the dodger. He's the bee watcher.
He's just a double talker. Word salad king.
Bob and weave. He's a former boxer. Bob and weave.
Good point, John.
Why is that dangerous?
You can only bob and weave before so long. What was it that Mike Tyson said? Everybody has a plan up until they get punched.
In the face.
Yes, punched in the face. So you can only bob and weave so
Or the
long.
throat, I would add.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Not that you've ever done that or any of the other people here, because I've never punched anybody. I have pugilistic arthritis in my fingers, but I've never punched anybody.
You might want to read some books by John Lamb.
I know him, and he's a troubled human being.
Yes, he is.
Breaking and entering or any forced entry, anything like that?
I again don't want to get into that. David, can you see anything?
He won't talk about how anybody got into the house at all. He's avoided this from day one.
Here,
And what's weird about that is the only time we heard about it is when Savannah said it.
Well, I think there was a leak to the media
That
before
there was no forced entry.
Yeah, that the doors were propped open.
Right, but Savannah said it on the Today Show.
She did, yes.
At this time, it's like still a very active investigation. There were circumstances on scene that we believe are suspicious in nature, I think is the best way to put it. But we can't really get into a whole lot of details with that.
Do they have cameras at the home?
They do, and we're looking through some of that.
Do they have cameras in the home? They do. And we're looking into that.
And my question was, could those cameras have picked up Nancy barefoot, pulled out of her bed, slippers left, and what actually happened? I mean, it's a question. We don't know. We don't know if they have footage of that. We don't know if Savannah was privy to that.
Yeah, if they were operable, I mean, they had to pick up something. If they have cameras in the home and they're working, they picked up something.
And back to
No
the
doubt.
slippers. Remember, Nancy had a dog, and that dog passed away in December. My guess is she probably used her slippers to let the dog out in the middle of the night. And so they were always right there next to her slider or something along those lines, where they were able to see definitively when they got there, boom, her slippers are here. And, she didn't even wear them when she left.
Okay.
Yeah. But see, Nanos is dropping just enough breadcrumbs close to the trail, but he really doesn't want to show us the trail. That's what he's doing here. And he's done that the entire case. And it's very, very frustrating.
Right.
Because
And that's what I'm doing.
to him.
I'm picking up the breadcrumbs and making a loaf of bread. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yes, the Nano show starring Nanos, music by Nanos. The guy really is an egomaniac.
Let's hear more.
This being an active active crime scene. Is there any threat to the general public?
Right now, we don't see this as a search mission as much as we do a crime scene. I want to.
So they came to a conclusion within a couple of hours to call the homicide guys. That's the 3 hour, that's the 2 hour gap that I believe Sergeant Cross was talking about, which he screwed up the other day and had to unwind all of that.
And then he corrected it.
And then he corrected it appropriately because he didn't want the public misunderstood there. Okay. But what Nanos has said, and we're going to get to this in our source, is no, they were there at 11 a.m.
The family.
And the homicide guys got there, quote, at 2. So that changes the dynamics of how this thing was flowing. And what's interesting, it makes sense now when Nano says, yeah, but the search was still going, because they're going to still keep that search and rescue team still moving. But now everything is shifted inside of that house to homicide and the CSI team. So you have 2 types of things happening. And this is why it was a caca show for at least a week or 2, a week at least, where nobody was talking to each other. Nobody, multiple interviews were being done, canvassing. When the FBI came into it and the gang task force and everybody started doing that, the results started coming back from CAS team. There was no clear leader.
Mm-hmm.
And point of it was Nanos. And I said this a month ago or a month and a half ago. It was Nanos, a captain, who were running the show.
And a chief.
And a chief, a deputy chief. I'm on the record of saying that almost a month and a half ago, that this is a cluster times 5.
We've talked about this many times on the show. I think it's worth bringing up because we just saw Nanos at the press conference. It never made sense to me, and I want to hear the panel's thoughts about why you can't simultaneously have search efforts going on for the missing person and run the homicide investigation. They stopped searching for Nancy Guthrie 48 hours after this ish.
Well,
that never made sense. And of course, we know Sheriff Nanos has refused help from like the United Cajun Navy to come in and search for Nancy at any point during this. It just didn't make sense. So if somebody can enlighten me, I would love to hear why you would just do a homicide and not keep searching.
Well, it doesn't make sense, especially since you have your search and rescue team in place. And we don't know how many people that is, but my guess is it's at least 10 and probably more like 20, maybe 25. And they're almost all volunteers. So the only change you would make, if I were doing this, the only change I would make, knowing that I now have a crime and I'm looking potentially for a victim or some evidence to that crime, is I'm going to put a deputy with each search team, a sworn deputy, because remember, they're all volunteers. And if we discover some evidence, then we'll proceed accordingly. We'll let the homicide detectives know and so forth. But that search should have continued. And I don't know why you would stop it either. It doesn't make sense. Once again, just a poor leadership decision. And
but wouldn't the family be insisting, especially once Savannah landed and came
They
to
don't know what don't know what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I think what should have happened is ICS should have been implemented right away. And then you can have all these different silos, all funneling their information and directing it up the chain of command. And then all these stuff coming in from the sheriffs can be handled. All the stuff coming in from the FBI can be, because Chris, all
Border
those things
Patrol.
you mentioned. Yeah. Border Patrol, the search entities, all this stuff can be handled. And ICS. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Maureen, go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
It's a command system in a structured framework for directing operations, allocating all your resources, and coordinating actions to achieve specific objectives efficiently. And we were all trained in this. They're trained in this. It's what you do whenever you have, you know, maybe I would say three different entities. You want to have some framework, some ICS framework in place. It's the
And
only
here's-
thing that makes sense, in my opinion.
So here's another thing about ICS too, is once the FBI is involved in this, and as Maureen says, you have all these other entities. You have search and rescue. You have you definitely have some medics there, some paramedics. I'll guarantee you they're staged there. You have Border Patrol coming in with their bloodhounds. How many board tack guys were there? I'll bet there were at least 10 board tack agents there. So you have that. And then once the FBI gets there, there is no reason why that you would not implement a component of the incident command system called unified command. And so what you would have there is basically you would take Nanos out of the lead, and you would have a leader from all of these entities huddling constantly and making decisions in a group. You wouldn't have one guy doing that. Okay, that's what unified command means, and that would have alleviated a lot of problems. So the question that I would ask Sergeant Cross right now, if he were here, is since Nanos has been sheriff, have they ever used the ICS system on significant incidents like this or any others? Have they ever used it? And it wouldn't surprise me if the answer is no, because that doesn't comport with Nanos and his ego. I don't think he would allow that, because it would take away some of his power and decision making and allow other people to think outside the box and to make decisions that he apparently wants to make.
Well, yeah, but I think also we have to, right, lean on what was he thinking or what were they thinking that night. Okay, he even says in this particular press conference, when I showed up, there were over 100 cars at the incident from the sheriff's department.
When did he say
And
that?
he says it in this press conference.
Okay.
Okay. And because he was asked that particular question, you know, why did you guys, what was going on with the search? And he says, look, we had hundreds, we got phone calls from everybody. We got Tucson. We've got all kinds of people that make phone calls, okay, from the various agencies around the area. Okay. And he says, you know, we grabbed those guys and we put them to work with our search and rescue, the BORTAC, everybody, the Fed system, okay, the federal guys, all from the task force and then from the Border Patrol. And we talked about this a while ago. Okay, and I mean, think about it in this narrow scope for a moment. And this is where working homicide is of value. Too many chefs in the kitchen create this kind of cluster. Okay. And you narrow it down to what's in that house and what's being told while you're at that house. And then you let the other things take the course that they're taking, i.e., if you have a search situation, let's use Leticia Hernandez, one of the largest child abduction cases that I worked in the country, December 16th, 1989. Okay. 6-year-old little girl evaporates from her front yard. That's a kidnapping. We find her body a year and a half later, 23 miles away from the house. Meanwhile, we were chasing suspects all the way to Florida when it was a 290, 3 doors down. And what the public didn't know, there were parallel investigations going on. And I was responsible for all of these leads going across the country. And John was there. She was profiled 3 times on America's Most Wanted back in 1990. Okay. It was the second largest child abduction in the United States at that time. And the other day I heard a podcaster say, you know, when somebody is going to talk about kidnappings, they should go look in their case file and tell us how many they did. Okay. Well, I did that. I pulled my case file. Actually, it's right over here. Karen, let me see it.
Chris, explain what a 290 is.
A registered sex offender, RSL. Okay. And we know who did it. We just don't have enough to handle it.
We do know who did it.
Okay. So I went and I pulled my case file. Here's my case book. Okay. And in this case book, I looked up the word or the number 207, which is kidnappings. Okay. I had 4 207s that were homicides, and I had 10 that were not homicides. So I had 14 kidnappings in my career, okay, that I actually worked. Okay. Now, I expect that person to do the same and show the public your case file. Okay. I'm not going to name who it is, but they called me out. And now I'm calling them out. Okay. Because that's just the way it should be. Okay. If you're going to walk the walk, you need to talk the talk and tighten your helmet up. Okay. That's real simple. Okay. Now, why I'm following this bouncing ball like this is because I don't think I would have called ICS out as the sheriff did that night, because it's so contained in that house. Okay. I agree that if this was, you know, the LA riots, or, you know, why does Nancy Guthrie get all of this attention in my head at that time? Okay. Well, it's because a senator.
You're saying because it was just a homicide at this point, and he does have jurisdiction over homicide or
Right.
kidnapping.
Right. No,
That's fair.
What I would have done personally, I would have said, call Maureen and her team. Get the evidence response team from the FBI here, because it is going to be a high profile problem. Okay. And we need the best that we can get. And, you know, I don't care what anybody says. You guys are the best, Maureen. I mean, that's cut and dry for me anyway, even as a local guy. Okay. That's a no brainer. But to Bob's point, no, his ego would not let this take the direction that it needed to take. Now, if it turned into something within the first 24, 48 hours where everybody's going, hey, wait a minute, this is crossing the border, this is going over here, this is going over there, I agree with you guys 1,000%. ICS, let's go. Let's see where we're at. Okay, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
The other reason I think he doesn't want ICS, and Bob, tell me if you agree with this, because in that ICS system, when things shift, which they often do after, you know, you set it up at the beginning, are we gonna regroup every 12 hours, every 4 hours, every 24 hours, whatever it is, and then you make a determination. This now looks more like a kidnapping. Let's have the incident commander be the FBI for this next period until we run some of this stuff to ground. He would never want that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, you know, I'm not sure I would have called it an ICS incident, informed that ICS group right from the get-go that night. Is a homicide detective, I wouldn't want that. Forget that. I'm running my case. So right. I get all that. But once they formed the task force with the FBI and you have all these components, that's when, and I think you just said that, Chris, that's when I think it's appropriate to implement the ICS system and go forward based on that. Because you know what you also have in the ICS group of decision makers? You have a competent PIO, and that would have been outstanding.
He would have never relinquished the reins to a PIO.
Yeah, I know.
He hasn't in 3+ months.
Yeah.
But just so I'm clear, before John, of course, the homicide detectives make the calls, do what they have to do, run their investigation. What I'm talking about is all the other teams, because the information, when the FBI first got there and said, hey, we're here, we're going to help. President Trump, remember, said, hey, I'm sending all the assets there. One thing that FBI office knows is that we work really well with the Pima County Sheriff's Department as a whole, but Nanos hates us because Nanos has been on a bunch of videos talking about how much he hates the FBI and everything like that. So there's going to be issues. That's a reason in and of itself, because at that point, information is not going to be flowing the way it should be flowing. So put in the mechanisms that allow that type of flow. And the FBI sets up all the systems, all the computers in the command post, and it's seamless at that point.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. And that is a solid point that I hope the public is understanding, what we're kind of bantering around here as friends and professionals going, at some point it had to get to a place, because I think all of us can honestly say we were all worried that there was so much going on behind the scenes that Nancy was getting lost in this whole thing. And now it's unfortunate, because I think we all predicted at some point it's going to come to the surface. And now that it's here, everybody is scrambling, to cover their own butts once again. And she keeps getting lost in this. And we see this very clearly. I want to show you this next video. As he's there in the very beginning, it's him and his guy that's been up all night. And what happens once he realizes, that the wheels are coming off the bus, right? Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, right? Once he realizes those wheels are getting flat on the bus, next thing you know he wants to play, and he wants to play friendly with everybody. Listen.
Right, and it is really important. Miss Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie, is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack. The family wants everybody to know this isn't somebody who just wandered off. Her physical.
Now that's an interesting statement to make. I just want you to know that this is not somebody that just wandered off.
Mm-hmm.
According to the family. The family told him she's sharp as a tack and she didn't wander off. That's what he said at that press conference.
And what's the narrative we're hearing? It was a walk away. It was a walk away.
Well, we've heard multiple.
We think she went to the doctor. We think she went here. We think she went there. That kind of goes against. I kind of got the impression there that he's impressing to the public. Look, she's sharp as a tack. There's no dimension here, and we want you to know she just didn't walk away. This is a crime scene that we are working. Okay, which caused me to ask the question. You can't see that in 56 minutes. Maybe I'm just not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay. I'll put that on me and my mom. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Rest in peace. I love you. But this idea of, where's the narrative? Well, let's listen.
The bits are based on just age and, we get old. And so it's more physical, but clearly she is as sharp as a tack.
Do you have her cell phone, and does that present any tracking potential?
We're looking at that as we speak.
But do you have it or do you not?
We do have it.
Can you give us?
So they had the cell phone that day, that night. They have her cell phone, and this is again where Maureen's team comes in handy, the cast team. You hand it to the FBI quickly, and you say, "Take care of it." This is when you would have given the phone if you wanted ICAC involved, or like he said, well, everybody was involved. This is when you hand that phone to somebody in your department that has a UFED. It's a device that downloads everything. It's a Celebrate device.
Just a little bit more of a timeline, because you said she didn't leave on her own. She was last seen at 9:45. She wasn't reported missing until noon. But
I believe what happened there was at 9:45 in the evening, her children left her off. At some time earlier that morning, they got a call from somebody at the church who said, "Hey, your mom's not here." The family went to the house. I'm thinking they spent some time looking for her themselves before they called us. So I'm guessing maybe they got there around 11.
Okay, see what he just did there, and this is where the 3-hour gap is now. He's saying they did some looking themselves. And then I'm guessing they got there around 11. Now, how do you screw that up?
This guy.
Yep. No notes, no nothing except for the talking points from the family, of course, but otherwise no notes. So
an hour? in probably the highest, we always talk about the knucklehead in Hawthorne inserting himself into the Lindbergh baby kidnapping here. But the sheriff who's talking the night of with the investigators and the day of, he's really off by an hour? John?
Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to ignorance. The guy is working without a net, and he is not as bright as he imagines himself to be. We don't even know how much he actually comprehends the time element. He's just vamping for the microphones.
So let me make a point. So we clearly heard him say around 11 of when the family got there.
But they were searching before.
Okay.
He clearly says that too.
But here's where I'm going. The next press conference, he said the family got there at 11:56 a.m. and they called 911 at 12:03.
Mm-hmm.
He narrowed that 56-minute gap the next day or so. And all of the media glummed onto 11:56 a.m., 12:03 time of call. I don't hear discussion about, wait a minute, Nanos originally said what we're saying, 11 a.m., thus leaving a 56-minute gap. So a lot of people gave Nanos a lot of grace on the information he was releasing from day to day. That's my point.
So how do we know that it was 56 minutes as opposed to just a few minutes?
My source.
Okay.
Says,
our source
said, our source said that Nanos was right.
Yeah,
11 a.m.
Indeed, it was around 11. But what's interesting is then why come back on a press conference? This is a question, and narrow it, shave off 56 minutes and say, well, the family really did this all in 7 minutes. All did this in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why, Chris?
I don't know. I mean, he stuck them into
Why,
a corner, unfortunately. That they were able to make all the phone calls to the hospitals, and then we call 911. No, it made more sense to what the truth probably is they got there earlier at 11, probably because the phone call came in earlier from the girlfriends. Okay. And when the media finds those girlfriends in New York or whoever called and says, what time did you call? And they go, well, blah, 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 because the service starts 2 hours earlier in New York. Okay. Then it's going to make a lot of sense. And again, No Nads is going to look like the doofus that he is. Okay. But I think more importantly for our thought process is the fact that narrows it even further back at the home. And that puts 3 hours on the plate from the moment the family got there to the moment homicide got there is 3 hours. thus the thumbnail. Okay. What was happening in that 3 hours with a narrative that was being projected? Okay. That was being projected. That's why it doesn't make any sense to Savannah, in my opinion. Where she even says on national TV, well, that didn't make sense. Well, no kidding. We agree with you. I agree with her. Anybody, John, thoughts? Bob, Maureen, jump in here. You know?
Yeah,
Nothing we can add to it.
yeah, it's
Just
pretty
you know.
obvious what he's doing. Yeah.
At some point, it's dead horse and flogging. I mean,
And at some point, we're going to get more information that's going to turn it the other way again. I mean, this is just like rope-a-dope.
Yeah. Good boxing analogy, Maureen. But well, it gets worse. Let's
did
listen.
some searching and realized we need some help, and they called 911. Nobody actually lives with her now.
You hear what he said? We were searching in real life.
They did some searching and then called 911.
They did some searching in real life, and then they called 911. And what time was that 911 call again? 12:00 something?
12:03.
Like I say, she's of great sound mind, and she is mobile. It's just, it's a challenge for her to get, as the family says, she couldn't walk 50 yards by herself. So. Community, and come home and be safe at night in their rooms, sleep in bed. And this lady wasn't able to accomplish that. That's a sad statement. We need her back to work.
Now the FBI is involved.
Is this the next day or a couple of days later?
A day or two later. After all the dust is settled and he realizes he has opened his mouth, inserted his foot multiple times, and he needs more resources. But here's the interesting thing about this particular press conference. The scope of engagement.
Hello, I'm John Edwards. My spelling is JONEDWARDS. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI's office here in Tucson. First, we want the community to know that the FBI is doing everything in our power to bring Nancy Guthrie home to her family. The FBI is working alongside the Pima County Sheriff's Department on this incident. In terms of what the FBI is doing, we are providing the following support. Primarily, it's analytical and technical support in the following ways. We're downloading and analyzing cell phones, obtaining cell tower information, conducting interviews, and providing any and all investigative support that the Sheriff's Department needs. We are looking at this from every angle, but we need your help. If you live in the area or saw something on Saturday night, the 31st of January, or Sunday morning, the 1st of February, please report it to the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Every lead and tip is important. We are aggressively pursuing and looking into every single one. Again, please help us bring Nancy Guthrie home. Thank you.
Okay. Maureen?
He said he's working with the Sheriff's Department. And he outlined exactly what our role is going to be at this point. Instead of saying we're going to be working shoulder to shoulder very closely with our partners, and we're going to do anything that needs to be done. You know, it seems to be missing a little bit of teamwork. And I don't think it's on, of course, I don't think it's on the side of the Bureau, but it's almost as if they're saying, this is the stuff we're taking responsibility for. And with regard to the Nancy's phone, I am fairly confident, very confident, that the Bureau is the only one that downloaded that phone. because when you download it, you have to do it forensically, as everybody knows, but you got to do it forensically and keep a working copy that can be compared before court or by the defense to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with or anything.
Reading the body language there, watching that whole news conference, you could cut the air with a knife. It was so thick between the sheriff and I don't want to put words in the agent's mouth, but and I don't know him, but to me it seemed like it was pretty contentious in there. Not a lot of cooperation, not a lot of teamwork, as Maureen said. So too
John?
bad.
Well, the difference between the two is that the sheriff was not performing, or the sheriff was performing. The FBI agent was relaying information. And there's the difference between the two, is that, and I don't know whether the sheriff has at any point made the appeal to the public as the FBI agent did. But what I saw was the difference between a professional law officer providing the information necessary to the media, as opposed to somebody who was almost compulsively grandstanding. So that's what I saw.
Yeah. Karen, what do you think? You've been
Two things.
seen this 1,000 times.
Two things. My question is, was this before or after the FBI director had that airplane on standby
Before.
to fly the DNA sample to the Quantico lab versus Nano sending it to the Florida lab like they typically do? That's a question.
I think that
Judging
was
from the look
before.
on the FBI agent's face, I would say that this was right after they found out that Nano shipped the evidence off to Florida.
Could be. The other thing
Why
I
the
thought-
evidence wasn't listed in his items that the Bureau's doing, maybe. That's a good point. Okay.
The other thing that when the FBI agent said, for any tips, call Pima County Sheriff's Department or FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI. It's very subtle, but Bob, to your point, it's like, hey, we're working alongside these guys. You could call either one of us, but here's our phone number.
That happens fairly frequently, though, I would say.
It's an observation. It's
Oh,
not really a.
I see what you're saying. The distinction
Right.
is they didn't give the phone number of the Pima County Sheriff during that
Exactly.
statement. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And right, my thought would be, please give it to us. We can do something with it, perhaps more quickly than Pima County.
Well, it's still Pima County's case at this point, so you can't really do
True.
that.
But he said, tips go to either Pima or us, and here's 1-800-CALL-FBI.
Which had to grind the sheriff when he heard that.
Yeah.
I'm just
Grind
saying.
away.
Just saying. Oh, it gets better, because after this, now we realize, okay, that they're running on fuel of a homicide investigation. And Nanos is making sure that he has pigeonholed the FBI to, don't cross the line. The next press conference where he has now the SAC there, or the, special agent in charge.
Or as we call them, SACs.
SAC. Okay. Okay. So once his boss gets, the guy that was just at the podium, when his boss gets there, his boss takes over the podium. But just before that, Nanos in the press conference says, I just want to make sure everybody knows what lane you're staying in. Okay.
What a goofy thing to say.
I know, right? Right. But it's obvious now that he's worse than we were all thinking.
That's a statement that I would expect a control freak to make.
Well, and what? How many days are we now? 100 days on Mother's Day now, 100 and something days, and Nancy, everybody's still fumbling. and he
poor
gets asked in
family.
the parking lot. He gets broadsided by some, reporter who says, how are we doing in the, Happy Mother's Day? And are we making progress? He goes, yeah, we're making progress. Okay.
Well, this is why I think that the FBI released the information about the backpack that we had. Remember the discussion you and I had about that, Chris?
Yep.
And now I see, I see exactly why the FBI did it and didn't look back. They appropriately did so, in my opinion, because they don't know what Nanos is going to do with it once they give him the information. And so time is of the essence. Of course, we're working for the victim. They're working for the victim, not some ego. And I think that's why they just made the decision to go ahead and put that information out. I think that's why Kash Patel put out the video once he got it. And because I think, at the command level at the FBI, they'd had a gut full of Nanos and all of his BS, and they're just going to run with the case, even though it's technically Nanos's case. They're going to run with it to work for the victim, and I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think that's why the director went on Hannity and said, "Look, they shut us out for 4 days."
Because they want to show we're not playing games. We're just trying to get the job done. Can't we all just leave our egos at the door and move forward?
Right. Exactly.
Find justice for Nancy.
It's ridiculous already.
We'll take some questions.
Sheriff, is there any indication so far as to whether this was a random abduction or targeted?
It's like I said earlier, we're looking at all the leads, and we don't know. We're going to assume both sides of that. We'll look at both sides of that.
Do you have any idea what Nancy Guthrie was wearing, or the type of car that she might have left from, or any identifiable information that the public could use to help with those tips?
We do not.
Sheriff, do you believe that one or more than one person was involved in the kidnapping?
I just no clue. It could have been one. It could have been more.
Is there any indication that Nancy Guthrie is still alive? We know the medication played a critical role here. It's been 48 hours. She needs it every single day. Are you looking for someone that is still alive?
We hope we are.
Sheriff Banner said earlier that you don't believe there's a wider threat to the public. If you're not sure if it's targeted, why do you believe there's no wider threat to the public?
Well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like any city. And so when you say a threat to the public, is there somebody out there who's kidnapping elderly people in the middle of the night every night? We've not heard that. We don't believe that's the case. We do believe that Nancy was taken from her home against her will, and that's where we're at.
Sheriff.
I wonder how he got to that without telling the public how he got to that. He just said, we believe she was taken from her home against her will. Okay. And then he comes out later.
I mean, the back doors being propped open, the blood on the front porch. I mean.
Yeah. Right.
But the public knew none of that at that 48-hour point.
Oh, and they should have had more follow-up questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheriff, when you reference violence at the site, can you elaborate on that? And also, was there a sign of forced entry, any valuables taken, any bank or ATM cards used after her disappearance?
We're not getting into that. What I tell you is, like any crime scene, we process this crime scene.
See, he's dodging 1,000%. He does not want to talk about point of entry in any way, shape, or form.
And he still won't.
No.
Gathered all the evidence we could, to include looking for what? Fingerprints, DNA, camera images, everything you can imagine. And we gathered that out. Those things have been submitted forward to labs, to technological companies to help us. And we're like you. We're waiting for those returns to come back.
Did you find DNA that did not belong in that house?
The window of time from when she was last seen to when she was reported missing, and I know you guys are asking for help from the public, is there any way to narrow down what time you might be helpful? I know there was a report about a pacemaker dinging like around 2 o'clock in the morning. Is there any way to indicate to people, hey, look around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. to help them identify what they might have?
You know, I really don't want to get into narrowing down the time, because narrowing it down means we could miss some tips and leads. We're working on with the data we've submitted for investigative analysis. We're working to see if that time can be tightened up. But for now, we're going with what we told you earlier. She was dropped off at 9:30, and she was found to be missing at about 11 o'clock Sunday morning.
Boom. He says it again. 11 a.m. Sunday morning. So that's cute. That's huge. That's huge. And we chased that. And that was one of the things I wanted to make sure before I got on here tonight that we were on target, that I wasn't hearing things. It gets better, by the way. Meaning I've put some pieces together.
9:45, 9:30, 9:45, we were told she was left at her home by the family. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the family got notice from somebody at church that she was not at church. They went to the home, found her to be missing. That's the timeline. From Saturday night, 9:45, we'll say, to Sunday morning, 11 o'clock.
Have you been able to
Everybody has missed that. Go ahead, Karen.
Because everyone's now bought into 11:56 a.m. Am I wrong?
No,
Have you
you're
seen
right.
other stuff? I mean, most people move the timeline because nanos move the timeline.
So everybody in chat, that is the timeline. You do not go before the world and say that in this type of high-profile investigation where the CAS team has already given you data, because that's why that FBI agent's there. That agent's there in a support role to tell the public what they're doing. And they had already handed, I guarantee you, the Celebrite data to their team, to their investigators. Because if I was a case agent, that's one of the things I'd want to know right away. What, and for the public, so you understand, you have some software on your side as an investigator that once there's a dump, you just plug it in and it will, basically plug and play. I'm not going to tell you what it can catch, but I'll guarantee you they had a lot of data quickly on this thing because the CAS is the best in the world. What took a little time was the geo stuff, okay, the fencing stuff. And that's probably where the DoorDash guy and the Range
Uber?
Rover got caught up.
Yeah,
in.
and just for
Yes.
context, that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
talking about the cell phone tower
Yeah, cell phone.
information. So that's what you mean by that.
And this now explains why the car was impounded. Not Nancy's car. You see, because he's going to be asked about this, and he is really good at dodging. Listen to this.
Back here, please.
So you obviously said investigators, when they got on scene, they found suspicious circumstances. When the family called originally to report her missing, did they say anything about the state of the home?
I don't know that. I don't know.
Just
Hang on, let me make sure I'm getting some different people here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there was blood that was found inside the house and you're testing it for DNA. How much blood and where was it?
I'm not saying there's blood inside that house or outside that house. What I'm saying is
That's a lie. That is not truthful. Because as soon as they pulled it up, you had a journalist walk right up and film the blood outside. And that's what I was saying earlier. All he had to do was say, yes, there is blood out on the porch, but we're not going to talk about the interior of the home at this point. We're still investigating it. Because once they cut that scene loose, okay, everybody knew what was going to happen. And it makes as much sense as the note being placed at the memorial, as if no journalist was going to go up there and put a camera on it. Okay. It just doesn't make sense. So what he just said there was, I'm not going to confirm if there's blood inside or outside. Meanwhile, you cut the scene loose already. And the journalists have already been up on the porch. They already know that answer. They already knew about the pacemaker answer. And so I'm having a problem now, and I think you guys probably can sense where I'm headed in my mind. It's like, follow the bouncing ball. And when he comes out and says, oh, by the way, okay,
Lab will report back to us what they find. So far, that what we found from that lab is nothing that would tell us this is who did this.
We'll take a couple.
Last night, the family, they just hurt, understandably so. And so I really want you to know this entire team here, those behind me, and our community are hurting with you. We really just want Mom back. Okay.
now, I think that's scripted by the BAU. He's talking directly to the family. He's not talking to the public. And he just said, because he personalized her, we just want Mom back. Happy Mother's Day.
And it comes across as fake as wax fruit. The guy is, we want Mom back. Radio. Look, we'd like her to come back, but she ain't your mom, dude.
Right. Go ahead.
Why, if the FBI helped script that, to your point, Chris, why wouldn't they come out stronger in stronger language? Why are they acting nice? Okay, whoever took Nancy Guthrie did it at gunpoint. This is violent. This was a violent removal of an 84-year-old, barely ambulatory woman. How come we've never heard the tough talking stuff from, I know the sheriff's an imbecile, but why haven't we heard, even from the FBI, look, we're coming after you. We're going to hunt you down. We're going to find you. How come we hadn't hear that kind of talk track? This is like the nice talk track. Oh, please, when you can, return her, drop her off.
Well, because at this point, they're thinking she could still be alive. And you don't want to, from John, you were a negotiator, right? And if the BAU was involved in this, they are going to tell him to go soft, humanize her, try to, garner compassion, make it seem like, oh, you probably made a mistake. And you do the same thing in homicide investigations. You guys, I'm sure, all know that, Chris, I'm sure you've said it 100 times, where it's like, hey, so this could have been an accident. And if it was an accident, that's going to be something different than what you're worried about or whatever. So you're going to soften it initially. Now, the gloves are off, I would say.
Well, the thing is, know who it is and I agree with you, Maureen. If the BAU felt, now when was this, just so I'm clear, when was these comments being made?
Like 5 days later.
5 days later.
I suppose it is possible that we could presume that Nancy is still alive. But if you're going to present that, and this is where you get the conflicting agencies, get somebody to say it who sounds authentic. He just, he feels he has to be center stage. There's a way you could have said it, and you nailed it right there, Chris, when you said, you turn it into, look, we think this may have been an accident, and let's try and work together and fix it. But when he looks at the cameras and says, we want Mom to come home, really, I mean, even speaking as a negotiator, I look at that and go, maybe somebody else could have sold that, but not him.
Well, at that point, we already had one of the ransom letters, right?
Yeah.
At least one, maybe two. Did we get, let's see, was that on, okay. Yeah, we had at least one, maybe two at that point.
Right. We had Crazy Guy in Hawthorne. Thank you very much. That's Maureen's husband's problem. The second piece of this is we had one of them go to the news agency, which they believed potentially, at least the family did, okay, that could be legit because of the watch and the light. And this is where the head guy from Phoenix is there, and he's going to address that. But I'm also going to I want to just kind of throw a curveball here. I think he's talking to a female. And he even says it. And people missed it.
I did miss it. Where did he say it?
You're going to hear it. I'm going to play it.
Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not?
We're going to go through this mesh here.
Timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Various pieces of electronics that we've gathered.
Okay, so they gathered electronics. At this point, whose electronics have they gathered? Nancy's, the family's, right? Probably the Uber driver. The list goes on. Okay, and this is how they break the timeline down.
Wait, look at the SAC and the ASAC back there. They're bobbing back and forth on their feet. They're like, "What is this guy going to say next?" I think.
Exactly. Well, and it gets better. Right?
And you look at some of this, and I know you're going to say, well, why did it take you so long to get this to us, Sheriff? Well, because one thing, it's got to go out and be processed at different lab sites. And sometimes that stuff comes back to us, and like you, we have questions. And we say, wait a minute, what is this about? What about this? Could it be that?
And I think those questions they're measuring it against a narrative. But he's not clarifying it.
And so it's sent back, or it's sent somewhere else. So, and that's happening with all of the things we see, that process, that review, and that questioning of, all right, what is it we're looking at? So I'll go over it with you. You can see it on the board there, but at about 5:32 p.m., these are approximate times. 5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family, just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family.
You notice he keeps inserting the narrative.
Yeah, the family.
Right.
Yeah.
Mom. It starts, mom, we want mom back. Okay.
Watch the SAC in the blue tie. He keeps giving Nanos the fisheye. It's pretty funny, actually.
Yep. It's entertaining.
Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, can't stress that enough.
He looks very nervous.
Approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50
Sweaty palms.
p.m., that garage door closes. Because that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going.
We
That
assume.
that's an assumption, right? That Nancy is home. Okay. We assume.
Well, he got that one right.
He did. There's an assumption. And going to bed. There's an assumption she's home and going to bed. Don't they know that?
Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself. It just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So it detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that.
Yeah, so is the video outside?
See, that's when I think Porch Guy had the camera and he stuck it in his pocket and it's still rolling.
Okay. What were you going to say, hon? I see your gears going.
I lost my train of thought. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disc.
Go ahead.
Can I make a point about the whole Google situation? the last 2 years of my career, I was the InfraGard coordinator, and the InfraGard is the FBI's public-private sector partnership, and it's the largest public-private sector partnership in the country. And then once I retired, I went on the national board and ended up as the national president. What we do extensively is we create relationships with all these people that work at Fortune 500, obviously Fortune 100 is part of Fortune 500, but we create partnerships with all these entities, and we have these relationships built for just such an event, so that when something like this happens, not only do we just walk into Google, but we have someone's name and we have a relationship built with someone there that we can talk to and get it done, and someone that can make decisions within that company. That's what happened here. And DSAC is a part of that also, the public-private sector partnership. But DSAC is restricted to just, I believe, Fortune 100 companies, maybe 500.
So as we know, the FBI director told Sean Hannity on that show that he said he contacted the head of Google, and he said his not interference, but that he's the one that insisted and helped Google peel back those onion layers to figure out to be able to retrieve the video to get what we have today. But it's interesting,
Right, and
but Nanos is taking credit for it. He said, well, we're working on it. Well, wait a minute. Are you working on it? Or did Kash Patel pick up the phone and call the head of Google and they're working on it?
Right.
Yeah, and what was your talk to everyone about staying in your lanes, Nanos?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your phone would have rung, basically, and you would have connected those dots. Great point. It gets better.
And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy, discovers her missing. And
That is not true.
Yep.
It can't be true based on everything else that we've learned.
Look at the agent looking at him.
Can you see the thought bubble that says, really?
That's like an albacore looking at him.
So to your point, Karen, earlier, your question, and this is the whole premise of tonight's show. Why is he covering the 56 minutes here?
Yeah. What happened between him reporting 11 a.m. and all of a sudden it's magically 11:56 a.m.? He just needs to tell us.
I mean, that's a big mistake. I can give him, some grace, but not an hour. In this kind of case, an hour is an eternity.
Eternity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if the mass was at 7:30, so that would be 9:30, right? Or 9:30 in Tucson.
Yep.
And I always imagined that all these ladies get together every Sunday to watch this, and then they have a brunch or something afterwards. And she's never late, so they probably got the call no later than 10. And
Right.
it really took them an hour to get over there.
Well, and that's what he says early on, right? He says, well, they did some searching, before, and I guess they got there around 11. So he just dodged, to your point, Maureen, he dodged it 100% instead of saying, at, whatever the time was, because they have that data now.
Right.
They may have even
my
pulled it out of the car.
My point is, I get a call, or we get a call. Karen, your mom is elderly and with you and everything. You get a call at 10 a.m. that she's missing and didn't show up at something she always shows up to, and you're not over there in 15 minutes at the latest.
Yeah. You drop what you're doing. If you're half dressed, get dressed, jump in your car and go.
Or send him first and you'll meet him there. Let him roll out.
I dropped her off the night before.
And her phone, Nancy's phone should show multiple calls.
Yeah, why isn't she
Exactly.
picking up the phone? Mom, where are you? What's going on? I'm on my way. What's happening? Call the girlfriends back. Hey, I called her phone. Did you guys talk to her? What's going on? I mean, these are supposition, presupposition. What
Call
I'm trying to say.
Savannah. Have you talked to mom?
Yeah, have you talked to mom? But she waited for how many hours? Right?
Some number of hours.
From 10 a.m., that would be 2 hours before she called. No,
Well,
3 hours before she called Savannah.
Yeah, would have been 3.
Cops are there, and the cops aren't there yet until the 911 call. We know for sure that's at least when the 911 call, the first one comes in. Maybe that's why there's the holdback.
12:03 p.m. 911 is called
Right
in
here.
to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's about approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene and
12:15 at the latest.
Search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact,
At 2:00, the homicide guys go on scene. That's legit.
Chris, go back and, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
can you go back and replay a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. I hope I don't mess this up because I've done this before, Bob. But I'm going to back it up. Say when, right there?
Yeah, that's good. I just want to catch that last bit he said.
Okay.
approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact, every unit here, I think somebody questioned, how come there's an ICAC member out here or this member? Everybody in our criminal investigation.
Now he's filling a gap there. That's
okay, but he said, and maybe I misunderstood him, but I thought he said that they called the homicide detectives at the same time they called the search and rescue team out.
They did. You heard that, and I keyed on that too for the first time.
Yep.
He said the patrol guys got there, or people got there, whatever word he used, surveyed the scene, and then called search and rescue and homicide. Did he not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Yep. And
so,
go ahead.
Okay, but why didn't they? So they should have called search and rescue maybe about 12:30, 12:45 at the latest. So there's a gap there to me. I maybe I'm not understanding, but I thought that they called the SAR team in. They started staging, doing their thing, and then an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half later, that's when they determined that this was a crime, and that's when they called the homicide detectives in. But he's saying that they called them in at the same time.
Right. And I know for, through our connections, they didn't get there till 1400.
2 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually pretty quick. For a Sunday call out, or not necessarily?
Well, yeah, I mean, 2 hours, John would have yelled at me if I would have shown up that late. But
yeah, you get there as soon as possible. But then again, Pima County's large.
Yeah.
We don't know where they're responding from, but 2 hours does seem to me an extended response.
Okay.
This team is a part of this team and part of this investigative effort.
That's right.
I think
response is out of sequence.
Let me make sure. Now, I want to clarify some things that I may have already done, but yeah, I've gone over with the blood at the front door, the doorbell camera. It was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming. The car, the car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle.
Okay, that was a Dodge. He's only talking about Nancy's car. they've already impounded Annie's car by them. And instead of answering what the real problem was, they turned it on the house, Nancy's car in the garage, the one we've seen pictures of, which was a pretty good, situation. But and by the way, we have 16,000 people watching us right now. If you guys could hit that thumbs up, that would be really dynamite. We would be grateful for that. And
just don't hit it twice, because then you're going to turn it off.
Yeah, don't do that. And I know I've kept you guys here for a little bit, so if at any time you need to bounce, before you do, just let me know, and so that we can, tell everybody about what you guys got going before you leave. But I only have a little bit more on this video here. Okay,
keep rolling.
Yeah.
Uber. We did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner. And we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information.
Yeah, and Chris?
Yep.
I think it's worth restating, and I know I sound like a broken record, and for younger people, records used to have skips in them. This is, in fact, the last objective point that someone not connected with the family can attest to Nancy's presence. It's when that Uber driver makes the drop off at Annie and Tomasso's house. Everything after that has any observations after that are connected with the family. But the
it's unverified.
Yeah, exactly.
And you notice he said the daughter?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So who ordered the Uber? And who introduced an Uber as an emergency vehicle to the hospital the next morning? Just asking for a friend.
You guys got this, I think, conducting follow-up. I think you said somebody had mentioned that they saw a team out there again last night or yesterday, and that's just, again, what I was talking about before. Our partners wanted a chance to see it.
Oh, come on, Maureen. You guys know you just show up and you go, hey, you know what? Let us go look at it too.
We're the FBI and we're taking over, so get used to the idea. No, we don't.
I mean, he's just playing this to the public. He's playing the public like a fiddle.
In a case like this, you'd want to, but no, just kidding.
I know. But I mean, just this idea that you guys just show up and say, hey, can we go look at the scene too? No, you know what really happened behind the scenes, folks?
Yeah, they reamed him.
Yeah.
What do you mean you gave back the scene?
Yeah, exactly.
You did what?
And this journalist here would be asking that question in the press conference.
And examine things themselves, and more importantly, it's just.
And look at your agent in the back. He's looking at him like,
hey, what about this?
How much is that bridge in Brooklyn, by the way?
Yeah, WTF.
Oh my gosh, look at him. These
that
poor
ASAC's
guys.
got his game face on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's the other thing.
Talk about burning credibility.
There was forced entry. I have no clue where that comes from. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all. Whether it's forced entry or not forced entry, that is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information.
Well, because it's a normal assumption in a case like this.
Exactly.
Sheriff, you said you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night?
You know, we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
Hello.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that? He lumps that into we've talked to so many people about this.
The question was the people she was with Saturday night. It's a very specific question. Have you ruled them out? And he doesn't, he does his.
Oh, he sidestepped the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then he does say, well, we haven't ruled anybody out. And
Before he reverses himself.
Right.
Completely. Again.
And now here's that interesting part about mom. Okay. Most of the time you would just say, whatever, but listen how he answers about a suspect.
Reporting of a forced entry came from. Do we know how whoever did this got into her house?
That I would not discuss with you anyway.
Fox News?
It goes back to what we talked about. Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal.
Why is he introducing a woman into the conversation about a suspect question?
I'm going to give you my opinion.
All right.
This is a guy who wants to be careful. He wants to be politically correct. If you mention men, you mention women. To me, I don't read, the suspect could be a female. I think he's just in his discourse. It's like saying people don't like hearing homicide guys because there's women who investigate homicides. Homicide team is a better way to say it. So I'm just saying, my opinion, he's trying to be politically correct.
Okay.
But there's other opinions.
I don't know how many kidnappers are females. I mean, and
there's more than we think.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Unless we're talking about infant abductions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But 84-year-old abductions?
Yeah.
A guy or gal? Let's listen to that one more time. I think this is a really important piece of this puzzle because there's only been a guy and a gal giving them a narrative up to this press conference. And after all, he wants mom home.
Eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our.
We don't have enough to say, this is our guy or gal.
This is our guy. We know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim.
At this time, like there's
Did you guys hear what he said? It's reckless to report somebody could be a suspect when they could very well be a suspect.
A victim.
Did he say victim?
He said victim.
Yeah, he said victim.
Okay. Awesome.
sheriff has said
this poor
there
guy.
is no primary suspect identified, so it could run the gamut. So.
There is no primary suspect identified.
It could run the gamut. So he's thinking female as well.
And let's overlay for a minute. Ashley Banfield had already reported what her source told her about the son-in-law at this point.
Right. We didn't say any of that.
We didn't, but I'm just saying that's out in the public for public consumption.
Right. But that didn't really mean anything to me, to be honest, because he was the last one to see her. He did, quote unquote, drop her off. He was the one that reported her missing. You know, it's all those things that just add up to one thing. Dude, we're looking at you, so let's do what we can to clear you.
Okay. And what about her?
Same. I mean, not exactly the same, but, you know, spent the night with her the evening before and was over at the house to find that she was missing. And I'm guessing that Annie called 911, but we don't know that yet.
Okay. So she may be the gal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you actively investigating the son-in-law in this case? I know there were reports earlier this week and you refuted that. You said you haven't eliminated everybody. Have you eliminated him or come close to it, or are you actively looking at him?
We're actively looking at everybody we come across in this case. Everybody. We would be responsible if we didn't talk to everybody. The Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, whoever.
I feel sorry for the pool guy. Everybody's saying, and the pool guy, it could be the pool guy. It could be the pool guy. And we know it wasn't the pool guy. I don't. I mean, at least I don't think it was.
Somebody in the
From the pool guy. He needs to come forward and give a chat to us.
Yes.
somebody
let's get him
in the
on.
chat.
Bye.
Somebody in the chat just referenced called Nanos the Ted Baxter of the sheriff's office.
Oh my God, that's the best one yet.
That is so
That's
good.
the best one yet. It is so
That's
good.
that's a perfect description.
That is.
I love it.
I've got 1 minute before I've got to go, guys.
Okay.
And that's a good one to, yeah.
Okay. And Maureen, thank you for being here though before you leave. So, and happy Mother's Day. And just
Thank
feel free to jump out when you have to. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Just-
for being here, Maureen.
And then you
Oh,
can.
I enjoyed it so much, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Good to see you.
You too.
Always
Bye,
a
guys.
delight.
Yep.
Aloha. So let's. You got to hear some more of this stuff here. So great having her on tonight. Let's see.
It's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family's been very cooperative. They've done everything.
How did this go into a cooperative family conversation when he's talking about suspects?
Well, the question was, have you cleared the son-in-law?
Right.
So this is the long-winded, bloated answer that he's giving.
Well, cooperation is not clearing.
Correct.
Everything we've asked of them, and we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes people can be mean out there, and that can really harm us and harm our efforts. So we do know what medications, and we have contacted pharmacies. Probably need to go back to just make sure that they didn't. Maybe we contacted them early on. I know that night, Sunday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. I know we were doing all the hospital checks, and that check.
Well, and that would be sequential to being told, we checked all the hospitals. They may be checking the hospitals to see if others check the hospitals.
That's like the bee watcher.
The bee watcher.
Shout
right?
out to all the Dr. Seuss
If the
fans
narrative
out
is,
there.
well, we called all the hospitals, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, Frank, or check all the hospitals to see if they check the hospitals. The bee watcher, like you said. And who is going to call the hospitals and say, hey, we've got an 84-year-old woman here. Do you guys have any pharmaceutical references to her being abducted, or did somebody get a large cachet of pharmaceuticals, before they abducted her? Well, that means they had to know her prescriptions.
But the inference actually is, hey, did anybody stop at CVS? Did the kidnapper stop at CVS to get her prescriptions or medications as they took her out? I mean, it's ludicrous. Have you guys ever worked homicide cases where you repeatedly went back to hospitals or elderly people? Hey, did the bad guy fill her medication prescription?
No.
I mean, it just defies logic.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Well, and
the simplest answer to that is that if they wanted Nancy to have her medication, they'd have taken the medication. Why introduce another moving part in? And then let's take it to its next step. If you didn't take the medication, it is because you weren't going to be giving her medication. There was no concern for her health or the fact of whether she was living or not.
Yeah, but when have you ever had a kidnapper come into a home, take somebody potentially at gunpoint, it's a violent act, and say, oh, let's pack an overnight bag for you?
It's the same for the kidnapper that will take the ransom demand on payments.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Continuous every hour, going back out and physically in person. Deputies were going to each local area hospital and asking them to check their logs.
My second question here is, I know you're looking for her in Pima County. Are you looking
for her across the state now? And if so, if there's a particular area that you're focusing on right now?
Well, we're looking for her everywhere, right? The FBI just
including the cistern.
made an arrest on a tip that we got that we thought there could be something here. There's it's statewide. The billboards are going to be out there across the country. We take leads from everywhere, and where those leads take us, we'll get there.
MS Now, Alex Talbot.
Agent Yankee, do you have any reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie may be being held outside of the country? Is that something that you ruled out at this point?
We don't have any of that information. We haven't ruled anything out. Like the sheriff said, we will follow the facts wherever they take us, whether it is outside of the state of Arizona or over the border. We will follow the facts and go there, but we have no indication anything over the Mexican border.
And you mentioned on the ransom note there were details about the Apple Watch and the floodlight.
Yep.
The ransom notes that were sent out to TMZ, KGUN, and KOLD, are they all the same ransom note? Do they contain the same details in each of those individual ransom notes?
The ones that I am tracking and aware of were the same that went to TMZ also.
News Nation, Brian Enton.
Agent Yankee, sorry, over here.
Yes.
When did the first ransom note arrive? And the reason I ask is because the Apple Watch has been in the news and on social media, and you could see like floodlights on video. So was it before those things were out in the world?
I don't have the specific time frame as I sit here today of what time it came in, but that you are right. Anyone could see a floodlight hanging down, could have seen some of those things. The watch has been talked about, so that timing is tricky, but that's why we're taking it serious no matter what and following the leads on that. But I don't have the time frame that the first note came in.
Now, who was the first person to see that watch and report it to their sister?
Yep.
Asking for a friend.
Thank you.
And my follow-up is for the sheriff.
Your guess is as good as mine. I would say absolutely there's a possibility that this is nothing to do with the kidnapping. But we
there you go.
cover all angles. We're not going to dismiss something until we actually know for a fact that it's one way or the other.
And the kids were running around. And my sister called me and I said, "Is everything okay?" Mm-hmm. And she said, "No." She said, "Mom's missing." And I said, "What? Yeah. What are you talking about?" She said, "She's gone." And she was in a panic. I was in a panic. I'm like, "Call 911. Yeah. She's like, "I did. We've called them. They're here." And we thought that she must have had like some kind of medical episode in the night, and that somehow, the paramedics had come because the back doors were propped open, and that didn't make any sense. We thought maybe they came and there was a stretcher and they took her out the back. But her phone was there and her purse was there and all her things. And it just didn't make any sense. So, Annie and Tommy had already called all the hospitals, but then I'm like, I'm going to call the hospital. So then I started calling the hospitals, and the police were there and talking to her at the same time. And it was just chaos and disbelief.
Nothing that I can release. Thank you.
And then also, there's also conflicting reports about who was the last person to actually see Nancy and drive her home. We know she took an Uber to Annie's house, but can you confirm whether it was Annie or her son-in-law Tomasso who took her home that night?
I think the timeline that the sheriff provided was a family member, but
just family. We're going to go with family.
We're going to go with family.
Can't make this stuff up. Let's go through some of the quick questions here. And by the way, for everybody that, thank you for your patience. I'm going to go through these chats real fast. There's only 43 of them, so we're good to go. If you guys could please hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, we would be grateful for that. Before I hit these things, overall take on what we heard tonight. I think we can definitely say that the sheriff says 11 a.m. That's when everything kind of started, but then he pushes it back to 12:56. So we have a 56-minute gap or thereabouts, in this. And any thoughts or anything like that on this piece of the puzzle?
Well, it's good to go over this again tonight, just to remind ourselves and everyone exactly what occurred on that first night, and there are definitely some questions about this timeline, and it's difficult to verify the family's story when we have this serrated information like this.
John, thoughts?
I guess my thought is that the disparity between 11 a.m. and 11:56, the big question in my mind is it deliberate obfuscation, or is he a scatterbrained and he made a mistake? That I don't know, because certainly he seems to be capable of both avenues.
Yeah, I hear it. Karen, what's your opinion on the 56 minutes?
You mean whether or not there was 56 minutes?
Or if it's a mistake, yeah.
Well, if it's a mistake, he repeated it multiple times. That wouldn't surprise me. So, I think everyone's going to have a different opinion. I'm in the camp that feels that Nanos was being truthful because he repeated it on different days. And then when they did the hard and fast timeline that they put up at I believe the last press conference, he narrowed it. And that's the one, as I said earlier on the show, that the media has glommed onto that and really hasn't gone back to question. But in fairness to the media, you can't get these people to answer any questions anymore. Even when you email the PIO office, they just have shut down. They won't answer questions. So, is it wrong that it's 11? Probably not. I mean, logic and common sense tell me it's probably 11, because why would you change it other than for other outcomes to narrow that 56 minutes? So that's my opinion.
Interesting. So, and my concern, and it's a concern. My concern is they did not interview tight enough in the very beginning of this thing. And you have even said that's your concern, hon. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but and we've talked, at length about this. And one of the things that I'm concerned with is if they have not locked it down that tight, they may not solve this thing.
And here's my concern. We know because Sergeant Cross has given interviews about this, and he has said that the first week or so, maybe even two, it was a crap show, his words. And, he gave the example that some witnesses who Pima County thought were being interviewed for the first time had already been interviewed 4 and 5 times. So that is a huge concern. I said from the beginning, I questioned again, was the family properly interviewed? Were they in an interview room, separated, recorded, and asked the right questions? And for the investigative tactics that you guys use, was this done? Was it done repeatedly? We don't have any confidence that all the right things were done the first week or two, because it was such a green staff that was working. Right? We were told all that.
Do you know why I don't think that happened? Or initially?
Why?
Because she's at the house 2 hours later calling her sister.
Okay, so question. If you were investigating this case and you were called out at 2 p.m. and you got there
Right.
You understood who the reporting party was, family players, everybody was there.
Yep.
What would you have done with the family?
Well, right. We would have
To
said,
John as well.
John, right. We would have said, okay, we would have circled up. Everybody would have had a job. Okay. And then somebody would have been assigned. You take Tomasso, you take Annie. Let's lock them in.
Separate vehicles to the sheriff's station, separate interview rooms. And if they wanted to squawk and say, no, I insist on being interviewed with my spouse, you say, initially, you soft pedal it and say, it's important we get your statement separately so that there can't be a later claim that you collaborated. But if they insist on it, then you say, you ain't at Burger King. This is our house and we have things our way. And you're going to be interviewed separately. So,
yeah, I concur. I mean, you've gotta take a formal statement from them and then analyze the statement, and then you enter into an interview. Not necessarily an interrogation, but they are the last ones to see Nancy, and that's why this is so important. It's for their own protection anyway. And a thorough statement taking from both of them is exactly how you begin this investigation. And if it's not them, you move on. And again, it's for their own protection just as much as it is the integrity of the investigation.
And don't you go back and re-interview as the case develops, evidence is found, evidence is tested, more information is gathered. It's a process, right? So It's not going to be just a one and done interview. You need to go back and sit down with them and ask them about certain things.
Well, I think I just answered that question a moment ago. Annie calls her sister from the crime scene, and at the crime scene, i.e. the house where the sheriff and everybody is and the search and rescue teams, she's saying to Savannah on the phone, I mean, you've heard Savannah's statement, it's chaos here. Well, you get them out of that environment. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying to this question here, or this comment. Okay. You get them out of there. And and then you tell them, look, if we find something, we're going to notify you. You're going to be with us, and you'll be the first ones to know. You don't leave them there and just say, hey, so what happened? Okay. Because right now, my concern is just my own personal concern, and my experience tells me, and John and Bob's experience tells them, if they didn't do that, that's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. If they just get a cursory, so what happened, and they didn't, and the detectives didn't pull them aside and pull them out and get them downtown, then they can just say whatever they want to say. And let's just be honest with the whole thing for the public. The public needs to, I think the public is smart enough to realize, because juries are smart enough to realize, okay, we're talking 56 minutes, potentially, that we know of at this point. There could actually be more time on top of that they actually got there earlier. We don't know that. But right now, we definitely know from, law enforcement sources, it's 11 a.m. It's 11 a.m.
Could it be earlier, Chris?
Yeah, because the sheriff, even in that comment, he says, they looked around, and they did some searching, and then he says, so it was probably around 11.
Okay.
So he's the one, that's putting it out, and Karen and I have chased it down and confirmed it. That's solid. It's good information, but Nonads has been jumping around it instead of coming out and saying, look, the timeline's changed. So let's keep jumping in through some things, because Karen is asking here.
We need to take some questions. Okay, good. Doesn't 3 hours of late night off photography at Annie's house indicate that as a crime scene? Not necessarily.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, it could have been just verifying their information. If they, at some point they gave a formal statement, I'm pretty confident of that. And so that could have just been, you have to verify everybody's statement. And that could have been part of that process at Annie and Tomasso's house. So it doesn't make them a suspect. It just, it just could be them verifying the info.
Certainly, and the suggestion that photographs were for luminol, the photographs might also have been taken to show that there was no luminol reaction. So as Bob and Chris have suggested, you're simply being at the home and processing it and taking photographs. All it tells us is that they're recording the scene. I don't think we can draw any conclusions from it.
Yeah, remember, Nancy was there the night before. So it's appropriate for them to go in and photograph that area.
Selma says, something that just hit me. Why was the blood not cleaned up by Annie and Tomasso? Someone might have wanted it to be seen by others first, like John Bonet.
Interesting.
Okay. Seashai says, seeing the blood, you'd think they would call right away unless they never used the front door and didn't see the blood right away. Also, there's an incline going into the garage. Was Nancy helped into the garage when dropped off?
Well, that's a great point. And we
Yeah.
also pointed out that there's an 8-inch slab step that she would have had to step up. It's early in the program. So thank you for that point. We talked about that early on. Great point.
Sunshine says, I've wondered if Nancy was taken out the front door by the perp and maybe just passed away. Is it possible Nancy could have been flown by plane or helicopter out of Tucson and never been found?
Possible, but not likely.
Yeah, require a lot of work, a lot of
Yeah.
extra work.
A lot of logistics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Selma says, someone else discovering the blood, not Annie and her husband, reminds me of John Bonet, who I think the dad or brother did it. Actually, not true, because it's unsolved, and I think the family got the brunt for decades, but they did not do it.
They were actually exonerated through DNA by the district attorney with a letter.
Alice says, we know who's responsible here. We know who's involved, and it's sad for the family. I understand that you can't say it. The question is, will they ever be prosecuted?
I think it goes back to what we're, just our initial impression is, I think collectively, everybody we've had on panel here, if they didn't lock these statements in initially, that could be very problematic at this point, because the next phase, go ahead, John, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to finish your thought. All I'm going to say is, regardless of offenders being identified, this has been, at least our view from the outside, has suggested that this has been such a Charlie Foxtrot that you're going to have problems prosecuting, and then add the other element, not merely the inexperience of the investigators. If we do get into a courtroom, Sheriff Nanos is going to be able to homestead the witness stand, because he's going to be there that long.
That's what we love about John. If you haven't bought his books,
John,
the links
so
are
good.
below. They're hysterical. And now you know why. So one of them. And he's got a new book coming called Bring Out Your Dead. You've got to read that one. It's coming out. So, okay. Then I found a mugshot of the porch guy 2022. Facial hair matches young mugshot. He's 55. Watch CCTV's right hand is missing a finger. 3 months of searching. I found a mugshot. Details sent to FBI. Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
If she could barely make it to the mailbox, how big a radius around the house would you have to actually search?
That's a great
That's a
point.
good question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not much.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the septic tank.
Well, they got to that with like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hart says, my mom, who's 93, has called an ambulance and then a cab to come home. I wasn't happy. Well, I'm glad she was well enough to be able to call a cab to come home.
Yes, absolutely. But here's the big news there. She came home.
She came home.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you, Slavart.
D. Bryan says, my theory, one, reason the porch guy appeared on January 11th was to find out if Nancy reacted to the door notification. And two, did she check her notifications the next day? No one family would know unless she told them, since she lived alone.
It's a great point. Yeah, it could
That's
very
certainly
well be.
That's what we know.
Trials in here says, don't you think if the relationship with Annie and her husband was good with Savannah, that Savannah might have come home to Tucson this weekend or by now to spend time with her sister and touch base with the investigation? I mean, I would say we don't really know all of Savannah's moves. We see her on morning television, so we know the days that she's at work. But,
And she's under contract with NBC to be in places, so it just may not fit into her schedule to come to Tucson.
Yeah, and you were talking about, though, the dynamics of the timing on this thing with the Olympics, which other people have been talking about too. Tell the audience what your thoughts were. We were driving home from a friend's wedding today.
I mean, we've said this from the very beginning. It's extremely ironic how February 1st was the day that we were told Savannah Guthrie was making her probably career, what would we call it?
Pinnacle.
Yeah, she's at the pinnacle of her career. She was supposed to fly to the Olympics to be one of the media hosts for the games for 2 weeks in Italy. And that's the day her mom goes missing.
Well, and if this turns out to be a personal vendetta having to do something with Savannah, then that would ring true for sure.
That the timing was all about the timing. It wasn't
intentional. Yeah.
Intentional.
Certainly not a random day. Yeah.
Which would be, that would be the ultimate payback.
It's an interesting question. And NJHMS says, does Maureen have her own channel? She's been the best retired Ellie voice covering the Nancy case. I could listen to her insights for hours. Yes, Maureen's podcast is called Best Case, Worst Case. And it's a podcast. You can find it out there. Susan says, Nancy, we are looking for you. The case is so strange. And Derek says, hey, Chris, Nancy Guthrie's online live St. Andrew's Church service starts at 9 a.m. and 10:45. What time did Nancy's friend call the family that Sunday morning stating that she didn't attend online?
Yeah, we've asked that same question. And now that we can move that back to 11, at least it had to be, probably the 9 a.m. or maybe the 10:45. And that would make sense that it was 15 minutes to run over there. It could have been either one. Great point. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that.
Christy says, does anyone else find it odd that if Porch Guy was there on the 11th of January, that nobody had her cams on her phone? Nobody reviewed them. Why would you not have mom's camera on your phone? That is a really good question. Nancy's 84. Her daughter lives 10 minutes away, about. And yeah, I think that would be very common for a lot of families to set it up that way.
Reporter expresses urgency due to temperature. Nancy is 84. Nanos states, I'm cold. Who does that?
Ted Baxter.
Yeah, somebody who wants the entire narrative to be about him.
Yep.
Ted Baxter. Exactly.
This is a good point. Selma says, if my mom's missing, I'm not stopping looking for her ever. I'd still be out there. And, it's a very fair question. Why has the family not continued to search for Nancy, whether they're doing it themselves, whether they're hiring people? We haven't seen anything. We always come back to this question. Why is nobody, and why did Sheriff Nanos refuse the help of the United Cajun Navy to look for Nancy or Nancy's remains at this point?
And
Could
here's
somebody
the point.
please articulate an intelligent answer to that?
Do you remember the case of the child abducted from the Spring Valley area, and right when the guy was going to cut a deal, they had a suspect in custody. This was in San Diego. And I don't want to get into the more horrific details, but the San Diego Sheriff's Department continued to search even when they had a suspect in custody, day after day, and eventually found the victim. So just to dovetail what you're saying is, why is there no ongoing search?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, it's problematic. Put it in the bucket, right? Yeah. Bucket's getting bigger.
Mary says, do we know what the dog died from?
Mary Finocchio, I love it.
Maybe that was part of the plan, so she would be alone.
Interesting.
I wish somebody would clear up the name of the dog, if the dog really did pass away. We need some details on that. And this goes to a larger question. Why is nobody in Tucson who has known the Guthrie family for 50 years, as long as they've lived there, come forward to say, hey, let me tell you about the family. Let me tell you about the kids that I grew up with. Let me tell you about Nancy as my mahjong player. I mean, it's so odd. And not for nothing, Kathy Lee Gifford reported on a podcast a couple months ago that Savannah asked Kathy Lee not to talk about her mom's case.
Well,
it is peculiar. You want to read that one, Chris?
Has Nanos acted as PIO before? If no, why not? Nobody even wants to touch that. He's so bad.
I'm sure he's been talking to the media ever since at any point while he's been sheriff. Maybe not prior to that, but when he's in the sheriff's chair, he's running.
Yep.
Can't shut Ted Baxter up.
But then they won't release any information to the media or anybody else. That's crazy. Yeah. Esmeralda says, Savannah mentioning a fun night at Carson suggests Annie's call came much later, likely around 8 or 9 p.m. New York time. It implies a 6-hour gap between 9/11 call and Savannah being reached, which is a major red flag. I think we know because on the Dateline episode, Savannah said she got the call from her sister, Annie, and then she was on a plane. The implication was it was some like 2 p.m. or between 2 and 5 p.m. New York time. Is that what you remember?
I don't. I'm sorry.
I think the call came a little bit later in the afternoon, New York time, but definitely not 8 or 9 o'clock because we already knew Savannah was on an airplane going to Tucson.
But if that is an accurate statement, I mean that will be really interesting we need to tighten that up. Good to your point. And good point. He wants to be the first to find her. Sad. Yeah, we agree. FF EMS would lock up house keys, give a patient. Absolutely. Fire department.
Definitely junior bid.
And EMS.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you.
They don't leave the doors wide open and take the person out.
Yeah.
Julie says, whether it was 3 hours or 3 minutes, you would call your siblings and say, have you spoken to mom today? No one waits until after searching the house, calling 911, filing the report, calling hospitals before checking with family. And that's a great point.
It is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Nina Drew. Appreciate your support. Mr. Honkin says, Sergeant Cross, Annie and Tomasso had moved things around inside the house.
And we heard that independent of Sergeant Cross as well.
Interesting. Knitting Kitten says, if we imagine a different timeline, is it possible blood drops were made on the way into and not out of the house? Gentlemen?
You know, personally, I'm still having a problem with that blood staging concept. I'm still of a belief that she's on the way out of that house, that there are suspects taking her out of the house. I still think she may have tripped or fallen somehow at that front porch threshold. But I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, but I don't know if the blood is a staged situation. I think there's a second bucket, though, where after 11 a.m. now, for me, I see more things there that are anomalies and that are problematic for me. In that way.
Overall, I don't think you could take staging off the table.
I agree.
I
would agree with that. John, what do you think?
I would just say that if we were just talking about very narrowly, did she deposit the blood while going through that door? If we narrow it down to that phrase, I would be very hesitant to agree with that. Because why, if the purpose is to remove her, would you take her into the house after she was being injured? However, I'm with you guys. You can't take staging off the table.
Yep.
Wild Cherry says, if she made it home, why didn't Nancy take her nightly dose of medicine? How do we know that she did not take that 10 p.m. dose? Do we have that on good authority that for sure she never took that nightly dose?
Not that I'm
Where did
aware
that
of,
come
but we
from?
do have the sheriff, to her point, right? To that statement, to kind of dovetail. We have the sheriff checking pharmacies according to what he said. We just saw it a little bit ago, but I don't think we know for sure.
Christine says, but didn't Nano say they got the 11:56 a.m. arrival time from the cell phone records? No, we didn't, because that would have had to come from Annie and Tomasso's records, and they haven't released a darn thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we heard it first from Nanos. He's the one that said 11.
Yes.
Right.
Several
And
times.
Christine goes on. She says, quoting Nanos, we assume she's home. Did they check her Apple Watch and phone? Yes, they did. Nita, I'd like to know why she didn't take her night meds if she'd been home and plenty of time to take her night meds and what wasn't disturbed until 2 a.m. Yes.
Yeah, we just
we don't know that she
we
did.
need to narrow that down, guys, to make sure. We got to get an official source on that. If Nano said 11 a.m. because family told him that, and he changed it when they got the cell phone data back, that showed them arriving at 11:56 a.m.
Now that would make sense, but again, the Pima County Sheriff's Department has not released anybody's cell phone data records, so we have no way to know if that 11:56 a.m. time is actually accurate.
Yeah, and why are you going out in the early on in this thing and putting that kind of discrepancy out there? I mean, that's a huge mistake. It's not a little. It's not a little mistake. I think we can all agree that.
Once is a mistake, twice is intentional.
Yeah, good point.
Wild Cherry says, I drive Uber and we aren't allowed to assist entering or exiting the vehicle because of liability. I'm watching replay. Thank you, Wild Cherry. That was my understanding as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, makes sense. Mike says, is it possible enough lawyer pressure from a powerful news group organization could intimidate a county sheriff to seize all public information on a case? That That is a good question.
with enough juice behind it.
Snazzy Trinket says, I've often wondered if someone tampered with Nancy's car beforehand, so that's why an Uber was called when her car maybe wouldn't start. Your thoughts?
Interesting.
There's no, it's interesting, but I don't believe there's been any information presented to support that theory.
Or that she ever drove. Yeah, I mean, but that is an interesting point. Why the Uber, right? And probably, we've heard that she didn't like to drive at night. And this is why the girlfriends would be really interesting to hear, what Karen was talking about, what's her pattern of life, hanging out, right? That kind of stuff. Interesting.
See, Shy, and let me know if we're saying it wrong. I'm probably saying it wrong, but she says, sad looking back at this incompetence. Nancy and her family deserve better. Today is the first Mother's Day of many to come without her. The pain they're dealing with is incomprehensible. I would say the voters and the good people of Pima County deserve better, along with, in addition to Nancy Guthrie and Nancy's family.
Yeah. Well said.
Beacon of Hope. Don't you think it's also a problem that Annie and Tomasso were at home for a while and evidence could have been tampered with?
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Beacon of Hope.
We do.
Yeah. Georgia Peach. It's like, yeah, the Georgia Peach. All of Nancy's kids could have been notified on phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On one phone call, you could add in your siblings.
Thank you, Georgia Peach.
Yes, thank you so much. Ocean Wild says, why did Nano seem to give up or call off so soon on the physical search of Nancy? We have been asking that question since day one, or actually day two.
Well,
day two is when he called it off.
It sounds like they came to the conclusion quickly that this was a homicide.
That they weren't going to find her.
Crazy.
Interesting.
Lori Jane says, do you think it's weird that the first question Savannah asked is something wrong with her? When Annie called, it seemed like they don't talk very much.
Oh, that's interesting. From a sister's position and a woman, what do you think?
It could be. It could be.
I want to know more about those dynamics, don't you guys? I really do. I want to hear from her high school friends. If somebody knows one of her high school friends, can you send me an email with that person's name?
This would be Annie's high school friends.
Yeah, right. Let's see here. Yeah, thank you. Video tracks, I saw that, but yep.
Cool and Chris says, I thought she took an Uber to Annie's house because they were drinking, but they were sober enough to bring her home. We don't know.
Nancy could have taken the Uber there because maybe she intended to have a margarita or a glass of wine or something, and obviously didn't want to drive and leave her car there. So she took the Uber, and then it was assumed that Annie or Tomasso would bring her home. So, I don't know if they all consume alcohol. Who knows? I don't. But, if you have one drink, you're probably fine for most people to drive somebody 4 miles.
Spoken from a motor officer that would hook you up in 2 minutes and hand you a citation with a huge smile and motor boots saying, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Probably not after having just one drink.
You guys are awesome. Johnny, where do they get your books?
My books are available on Amazon, and the link is down below at the page. The books, Service with a Sneer, and I've seen some nice comments. People have enjoyed it. Beach Blanket Bedlam it was the next one. Bring Out Your Dead is, I'm hoping, going to be out by the end of this month, and that is, readers will find that there are some laughs in there, but it also tends to take you into homicide investigations and at least one serial SA investigation. But I want to thank everybody that's purchased the books. And somebody asked my titles. How did I come up with my titles?
Yes.
And I make them up myself. So I want to thank everybody. I want to wish everybody again a wonderful Mother's Day. And I want to thank you, Chris and Karen, for having me here. It's always wonderful. Somebody wanted to see Andy. I'm afraid Andy is asleep.
Long asleep.
Yeah.
Good.
And Bob, were you fishing today?
Well, let's see. I've been doing house projects and yard work and all that kind of stuff. So no fishing lately. But as I said the other night, probably a trek down to the beach in Carlsbad here pretty soon. So that's my next adventure.
Cool.
And I'll echo what John said. Thanks for having me. And good to be with all of you and Maureen as well. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for, carving your time out here. We appreciate you very, very much. And thank you, Maureen. If you're watching on this other side, we appreciate you. And thank you, sweetheart, for,
Always great to be
on
here with you
Mother's
guys.
Day.
Putting up with
No other place I'd rather be.
And,
Oh, hey, Chris, can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
I saw our friend and colleague Big City Dan in the chat earlier, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. I didn't get a chance earlier. I hope he's still listening or watching. And anyway, you're doing a great job with your show, Dan. So huge shout out to you, buddy.
Everybody get over there. Yeah,
And also
absolutely.
you, Chris, you're up over 280,000 subscribers. God bless you.
I married way up. That's what it comes
We
down
both
to.
did, man.
Yeah, we did. We did. And
Yeah,
we
congratulations, you guys.
We had an amazing, our youngest 2 weeks ago got married. And so we're like total empty nesters, 1000% now.
But we still have Buddy.
We have Buddy. We do.
No baby.
And, as they say, let the rumble, continue. These two are, hopefully it will calm down. And, we appreciate you. If you're going to be at CrimeCon, we'd love to see you over there. Karen and I are going to be there in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a great opportunity to meet and greet. In the interim, thanks to our mods. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thanks to our military who are out there keeping us safe and allowing us to have the freedoms that we have. And more importantly, as well here in the homeland, our first responders and our nurses and doctors out there and lawyers and teachers, everybody that keeps us safe. Aloha, everybody. Be akamai, as they say in Hawaii, and we will see you on the next one. Aloha.
Night, everyone.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No one cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away.